This audio presentation of I Am the Answer by Lilian DeWaters is brought to you by audioenlightenment.com. Copyright 2014, all rights reserved. The astonishing new revelation. Today, nearly the whole world is giving attention in some way to the Great Triangle: the truth, God; the student, man; and the problem, human existence. We all know that problems continually come and go, and that man changes his ideas all the time, while to God, the truth, everything remains invariable and without shadow of turning. Undoubtedly, we have all placed ourselves as students, endeavoring to apply the truth to our earthly problems. Reader, have you not done this very thing? Suppose that all the knowledge of truth we possessed were inadequate to solve our problems. We might search for more knowledge and greater ability to make use of it, but the demands upon us might increase, and the problems seem never to cease. We often long for the place where we rest with no thought of an earthly problem. Have we not all entertained such a wish? Invariably it takes the flash of light to reveal the true meaning of life and all things to us, nor can it be obtained in any other way. As the veil lifts, one moment's sudden revelation completely rearranges and shifts our viewpoint, and the scene abruptly changes. In fact, this was exactly what happened to me one day while in deep meditation. I was considering mathematics, its students and problems, when suddenly it dawned upon me that the student position, which I had assumed, was certainly an unreliable and unsound one. As this actually burst upon me breathlessly, my heart cried out, "Oh, to be the principal instead of a student!" Instantly there followed a moment of shining light with its electrifying transfusion, sudden and swift, as though a curtain had been raised, admitting some startling new sight. I saw the indisputable fact with vivid, clear distinctiveness. I saw that I was the principal, not a student at all. Under this flood of blazing revelation, what else could I do but exclaim further, "Why, this means that I am the truth." I am not a student trying to solve the problem of human existence, but I am the absolute and changeless truth itself. The simplicity of all this amazed and overwhelmed me. Here in this brief but thrilling moment I saw what years of study and research had never given me. Immediately I then understood Jesus' dynamic statement, "I am the truth." Yes, this was it. I was not a student of truth, endeavoring to obtain and attain certain states of consciousness, always letting go one for another high on the scale. No, I was the truth itself. What more then could I ask? What more could be desired? Did truth or true being have any association with the problem? Certainly not. Neither then did I. I am the truth. Exuberantly I told myself again and again in my newly found changed relationship. I am not trying to do, to think, or to know something, but I am doing, feeling, and being the truth, the life and the way. Oh, the blessed wonder of the light! I saw then that the problem of human existence could never be solved, but will dissolve when we take our rightful stand as the truth, the way, and the life. Now, once having seen and accepted this platform, all other speculations immediately vanished, while beautiful verification in Jesus' life and teaching came flooding my rapturous thought. How plainly now to see that Jesus never said that he was a student of life, but insisted, "I am the life." Neither did he intimate that he was a follower of some particular way system, but again and again he reiterated, "I am the way." No wonder he was so absolute, so compelling, certain, and sure. Never did he speak nor act as though he were using truth as a means to bring about certain healing results in a material existence. His attention was not toward conditions, states, nor belief, but upon that being which is unalterable, that principle which is fixed and absolute, that law which is wholeness always. Against such there is no law. Reader, know thyself. Learn who and what you really are. The meaning in life and the fullness of all things, then for you, wars and problems will cease and be no more, sorrows and limitations fade away. For finding yourself as you really are, you shall be in touch with every good and perfect lining, and shall live here on earth a life of peace, joy, and plenty. The great questions. Where shall I look for myself? When and how shall I find myself? One of the oldest teachings in the world is that the way infers a road or path, in fact a going somewhere, as for example a pilgrimage. So countless ones believe that the place to find oneself is at the end of this road, or so-called path to return. Here at last, they say, one may find hope to find himself in the things of the kingdom. Again, there are those who believe in the way to be like a ladder reaching from earth to heaven, and so they set out on a long climb from rung to rung. In imagination they climb and fall time and time again, yet always at the top, high in the distance, they place the goal. The story of the forester may well serve to illustrate the way, and is told like this. All his life this man toiled felling trees. One day some messenger came to him saying, "You are king, you are not a forester." He only laughed, paying no heed to the story, but they became only more insistent in their endeavor to convince him of his real identity. After a while, the people whom he believed to be his parents told him that the messengers were right, that he was a king, that when he was a baby he had been taken from his mother the queen and left with them. Now then, what was the way for the forester to be king? Did he need to make any kind of a journey or overcome any certain obstacles? No, indeed. He needed but to believe and accept that which was actually the truth about himself and act upon it. This story accords with Jesus' teaching. I am the way, I am the door. Paradoxically, then, the way is not in going somewhere nor in achieving something, but in discovering one's very existence to be the perfection for which he is seeking. The great question, then, for all of us to decide is this: am I believing that intrinsically I am the same life and being as Jesus or not? If you agree that we all have the same relation to life and being as Jesus had, then you are forced to accept that since he claimed himself to be life and truth, this is exactly what he should be doing also. Listen closely. Yourself is not an acquisition. Anything you do to become what already you are keeps you from experiencing the great answer. Did Jesus locate heaven at the end of a long journey or at the top of some imaginary ladder? He designated it within you. Reader, you will find yourself, when you are released from every form of teaching which does not precisely agree with that of the Christ, right where you are is the place. On the tablet of your heart shall be found the eternal word, I am the truth. The new day dawns. The former things are passed away. Behold, I make all things new. Revelations 21, 4-5. Revelation of my own being does not depend upon any particular person, church, or nation, but is available to all alike. Inevitably the new day dawns. The teaching of Christ are destined to be understood and accepted as he gave them. Plainly and clearly he set forth his simple teaching, but how complicated and confusing it has become. For instance, he prayed, that they all may be one, as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they also may be one in us. Never can we be one while we are students of different forms of religion, for the student position ever binds one to church, teacher, book, practitioner, and personal beliefs. Only when we stop enacting the student or follower and accept our existence as the very truth may we truly lay claim to oneness with each other. In the new day, the old order crumbles and falls. The kingdom of heavenly oneness, order, and wholeness comes to light. The Christ message. I am the way, the truth, and the life. John 14:6. When we find a teaching which proclaims, I am the living truth, then we have heard the real Jesus Christ message, which is destined to free us. Jesus taught, I am the truth, while the present-day teaching regarding ourself is to the contrary, for we have been taught to believe that we are not the truth, but that we are man, the student, that we are not life, but that we are its expression, that we are not the way, but that we are a follower of it. What a difference it makes to us in our vision and experience to be the truth and the life, rather than a student applying the truth to his problem. So long as one considers himself a student, shall he find himself confronted with problems, for are not problems part of the life of a student? If one seeks for knowledge, what shall be the knowledge which finally will completely satisfy him? Surely nothing but the established from the beginning fact that he himself is the way, the truth, and the life. Lo, the facts which Jesus taught about himself must inevitably be the ones which we are to see as true of ourselves, else of what advantage are they to us? Definitely the greatest fact we can learn is the knowledge that we are the living truth. As we come into the positive and luminous awareness of this eternal verity, all lesser viewpoints are bound to completely leave us. As one may be certain that mathematics is absolute and unassailable, so sure was Jesus of himself as the way, the truth, and the life, invincible, inviolable, infallible, absolute, and complete. And most certainly his life on earth was to teach the same fact about us all. Jesus knew that he was the truth itself, and life itself, the way itself, and he said so. He took his stand as the fact of being, thus nothing could ever hurt him, affect, or destroy him. Let people think they could lay hold of him. They found themselves grasping at thin air. Let them attempt to kill him. They saw him walking about in their midst unharmed. All things may appear to change and vary, but true being remains ever the same. It holds itself invincible, infallible, indissoluble, true and absolute always. Verily, until we see and feel that we are the truth, and not man, idea, or student, we shall always be trying to get out the difficulties called problems. To the truth, all is perfection, and to the one being all is the perfect whole. Thus for us ever to be perfect, changeless, pure, and incorruptible, we must now be the truth, and nothing else. Man, never God. In a far country of human and material existence, where there appear multitudinous men, women, and children, the terms man and mankind are frequently used generically, but to consider oneself as man is a great and grave mistake. Christ gave no such instruction. He made use of a term man only when referring to the forms called persons or personalities as follows. First, bind the strong man, Matthew 12:29. First of all, renounce the perverse and inflexible belief that you are man, for it is not the truth. Call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven, Matthew 23:9. Man is not your father, and not yourself. He is of the earth, dust to dust. One is your being or father only, that perfection which is your own without beginning or end. What shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world of human accomplishments and intellectualities, and lose his own soul, and neglect discovering the great answer to existence? Mark 8:36. No man hath seen God at any time, John 1:18. No one as man or personal individual can understand the infinite. We stone thee for blasphemy, because that thou, being a man, makest thyself God, John 10:33. In one way their perception was correct, since man can never be God. But they made the fatal mistake of regarding Jesus as man. The fact was that Jesus was laying down his life to prove to them and to all that we are not multiple individual personalities as it seems, but infinite spirit, life and being, perfection, wholeness, and immortality. The individualistic position is destined to dust, oblivion, inexistence, while perfection is the whole. The all-in-all remains unchangeable from eternity to eternity. The Christ identified himself with an all-inclusive infinity, never with limited, finite man, thus his almighty power and presence. Saith the Scriptures, a man hath no preeminence above a beast. All go to one place, all are of the dust, and all turn to dust again. Ecclesiastes 3:20. The things of God knoweth no man. 1 Corinthians 2:11. Jesus knew all men, and needed not that any should testify of man, for he knew what was in man. John 2:25. You can see now for yourself the incongruity of the belief that we are man. The fact is, man is not a being of any kind, but a position of inversion, a turning away from reality and perfection. When his disciples attempted to glorify him as a good man, Jesus rebuked them, saying, None, no one, no man is good, save God only. At one time, metaphysics introduced to the world the true idea that really we are not any kind of man at all, but spirit, life, and being, that the root meaning of the word man implies man, infestation. This enlightened instruction was in vogue for several years, then it was removed and replaced by the teaching that we are not spirit, life, and being, but spiritual man, image or idea, and as such reflect, but do not possess, spirit, life, and being. Now then, the teaching that we are life, mind, and spirit agrees with that of the Christ. No other does. The prevailing idea in metaphysics today still is that we are spiritual, perfect man, an utter impossibility, and one which our great teacher never propounded. In all Scripture there is but one mention of spiritual man, as in the following. The days of visitation are come. The days of recompense are come. Israel shall know it. The prophet is a fool. The spiritual man is mad. Hosea 9:7. Jesus' teaching was wholly from the true and absolute state of being. He spoke from the viewpoint of sovereign power, not as a reflection of it. Gloriously and triumphantly he proved to all that he was life immortal, power omnipotent, spirit immaculate and eternal. Reader, can you doubt it? To attempt, therefore, to spiritualize man, which term means precisely a form of life having beginning and end, a form of personality and individuality separate from the whole, keeps one from seeing and accepting the spiritual requisite to let go such a fallacious practice in order to be like him who is Lord of heaven and earth. The great teacher of all never spoke of man as perfect or spiritual. He knew that as man we could never reach a solution of being, and so he stated plainly, a man can receive nothing except it be given him from heaven. John 3:27. Paul caught this same amazing insight when he boldly declared, Let God be true, but every man a liar. Exultingly Jesus stressed, "Ye are the light of the world. In you is the river of the water of life. The kingdom of God is within you. And the glory which thou gavest me I have given them." Do such words of these suggest the slightest hint that we are lifeless, helpless images dependent upon some outside power, or being for whatever we are or hope to become? Decidedly not. You may ask, what about Moses' declaration that God created man in his own image? True, here Moses was alluding to us as man, and not life, the self-existent, but he gave us as much of the truth as he knew at the time. Moses was not destined to give the full truth, for his revelation belonged only to Jesus Christ. He alone was the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth, the only one who was aware of his and of our inherent God state and fallacy of the assumptive man position. Continually he referred to our inherent state as the Father within, the pristine and genuine reality unknown to us as individuals or human beings, but known and understood as our soul cognizes itself to be God. Moses did not reach the promised land, proving he did not have the perfect and complete knowledge of himself, but taught the human footsteps, the resurrection, but not the ascension. Indeed, none of us as man shall ever reach the promised land, only as we are detached from that which is not the truth of us, and take possession of that self, body and universe which eternally are ours, shall we see face to face and know as we are known of God. Imperially, the Master set aside the transitory vision of Moses and proclaimed, "Moses gave you not the bread from heaven. I am the bread which came down from heaven." Verily, if one does not willingly accept that being which eternally and everlastingly he is, then of necessity he will continue to imagine himself that which he is not, man, form, image, idea, dust. Therefore, our only real hope for emancipation from all such mistaken ideas is to be like Jesus, life instead of an image of life, truth instead of an idea of truth, power instead of a reflection of power, and the way instead of a follower of some particular system, book, church, or person. We should always look directly at the teaching of Christ. Never did he intimate that he was man or an image, idea or an expression. Then why believe it? Why not believe exactly as he taught, that we are all one, and so are really the self-same life and being? The way Jesus regarded his identity with being is the way for us to do also, else why call him the way-shower? Furthermore, why acknowledge him to be the truth and the life, and us mere reflections of it? Unless we see exactly as he saw, and follow in his footsteps, how do you suppose we shall ever be like him and do the work he commanded? Paul caught a glimpse of this self-revealing light when he wrote, "We have the mind of Christ," 1 Corinthians 2:16. Jesus Christ is in you, 2 Corinthians 13:5. And John 2 prophetically announced, "Beloved, now are we, in belief, the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear, altogether revealed to us, what we shall be. But we know that, when he shall appear, when truth shall be more fully revealed, we shall be like him, Jesus Christ. For we shall see and recognize him as he actually is, the way, the truth, and the life." 1 John 3:2. In these latter days all falsities are to be exposed. There is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, and hid that shall not be known. Matthew 10:26. And they shall be all taught of God. John 6:45. Only the Spirit of truth can reveal to us the sublime fact that we are God and not man. It must come as a direct perception. Therefore, dear reader, as soon as you perceive that you are not spiritual man, nor an image of any kind, nor expression of any sort, you shall then be ready to take possession of yourself as infinite perfect being, and none less. Since you are alive, you are life. And since life is one indivisible whole, then this you must be, and are, the very same as Jesus. For himself, and for whosoever will, he proclaimed, "All, not part, power is given to me. I am the life, I am the truth, I am the first and the last, the beginning and the end." Could he have said it any plainer? Could he have been more clearly presented than the oneness of life and being? Do you believe that he did or did not include us in his vision? Nature entitles us all to the air as a whole, since it is indivisible, and likewise to the sunlight, since it cannot be separated into parts. Mathematics, too, is available to everyone, nor can it be personalized or separated from the whole. In the same way, we are all entitled to indivisible love, indivisible intelligence, indivisible perfection and power, and the indivisible fullness of every good and perfect thing. As soon as we begin to glimpse these wonderful and thrilling realities and simultaneously withdraw our claim to the dust thou art form and the dust thou art individualities, we shall make rapid progress towards enacting that new creature which Paul prophetically mentions. The terrific upheaval taking place everywhere on earth today signals the doom of all which we obstruct the coming into view and actuality of the ever-living, never to be lost sight of Jesus Christ's message and the perfection of all things, even as he foretold. Perfect self, perfect universe, perfect body, perfect experience for everyone who will take all. When one lets go of the false individualistic sense of himself, then he may say, I am the one infinite being. I am life everlasting. I am truth immortal and eternal. Thinking and speaking as the one and only, he may claim all good as his very own, but should he speak as an individual or person, then such a claim would be sacrilegious. Said the Christ, with men this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. When the Spirit in you comes forth and gloriously bears witness to the forever truth, then only shall you know that I and my Father are one, and understand more certainly that the Father, the infinite being, is greater than I, as person, man, or individual. Now we see that God and man are not one, nor are they opposite. The infinite can have no opposite. One God, perfection, is the true state, and the eternal, the other, man in perfection, is an untrue position, and the non-existent. I am God, and not man. I am the Lord, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another. When the scales drop from our eyes and we see the self in its true light, we shall love to be that which everlastingly we are, the life triumphant, the indivisible absolute. It is true sense. The word individual means indivisible, and pertains to the divine alone. However, it is generally understood to mean a single human being, with a mind and body of his own. Since life is spirit, no matter, it cannot be divided into human beings. The pure in heart. Blessed are the pure in heart. Matthew 3:8. Those of us who are sufficiently pure in heart will now happily take the step further and be released from all individualism. For to consider oneself an individual is automatically to set oneself apart from the whole. Mind or consciousness cannot be individualized into minds, nor life into lives. Only as we give up a suppositional individuality or individualized consciousness may we rightfully lay claim to the fullness of God the whole. No longer need one to attempt to heal minds or individualities, disease, or inharmonies, but seek rather to relinquish and erase all sense of multiple individualities and their essential restrictions or problems, in order to consider the perfection and completeness of life and being as an infinite, indivisible whole. How easy to see that spirit cannot be sick, poor, unhappy, deluded, or at war with itself, nor could there exist in it any imperfection, inharmony, or limitation of any kind. Limited vision shall be swallowed up in the infinite ocean of purity, love, and understanding, and the definite knowledge of the one indivisible life and being shall glorify and bless all who will accept it, even as light illumines the darkness. Our desire or effort to be rid of the appearances of any personal failure or discord must now be completely relinquished for the greater desire and effort to be pure in heart, that is, to acknowledge perfection as one infinite all and whole, indivisible and at hand. Giving up the defective viewpoint which deals with individualities, bodies, and human experience, and placing our full vision, love, and trust on perfect being, perfect body, and perfect universe as one indivisible whole, we are bound to experience peace, harmony, and wholeness, and the abundance of every good and perfect thing. Those who refuse to make the great surrender shall continue to sit in darkness and dream of many men, many wars, many minds, and many distressing experiences. It takes purity to see purity. So long as we are not pure in heart, we are destined to see problems, warfare, and suffering. For the notion of separateness and individualism enfolds all the suffering on earth. Man, seeing man, prays for peace, but the one, seeing the one, enjoys peace, harmony, and blessedness. Not my will, but thine be done, said Jesus, completely releasing himself from the personal sense he had assumed for our sake. Whenever we are willing and ready to accept the one as all, and the all as one, we too may be certain of peace, harmony, and happiness. Seeing then that this is what is really required of us, in order that we may take leave of a far country, let us hasten to follow the way-shower, nor think it robbery to be equal with him. Open the door, and I will come in, is the soft insistence of the Christ. Open your heart to admit the astonishing new revelation that you are the unchangeable truth, and not the ever-changeable student. Be still, and know that I am God, and that there is no other I. Hereafter, seek not for statements or formulas to be memorized, but consider the self as able and willing to reveal to you whatever it is your desire to know. The one divine mind is now your own, self-revealing. Believing that you are a spiritual idea, you cannot claim to be the divine mind, nor are you embracing Jesus' teaching. Your every thought and reason is built upon the mistake premise that you are a man, an individual, not upon Christ's teaching, I am the truth. Everything depends upon our devotion and adherence to the one whole, which is complete in perfection, harmony, and immortality. Thus shall we come into the new day and partake of the fullness and the purity of being. Our divine destiny. As we move forward and ascend, gradually the scales fall from our eyes and a new vision appears. Finally there comes the immaculate understanding that I am the light, I am the truth, I and my Father are identical. Inevitably, therefore, all lesser viewpoints will be renounced, for we are destined to know the self as Jesus did. Nor can such destiny be put aside. I come to fulfill, proclaimed he. I come to fulfill your destiny and bring to you the conscious awareness and knowledge of your eternal state. As you accept my teaching and follow me, you are bound to enter into the replenished light of your own being. In this realm of pure revelation, one simply enjoys without thought or struggle the things which are his as the truth and the life, the things prepared for every one from the foundation of the world. It is absolutely certain that our great exemplar never taught that he was a student of truth, but that he was the truth himself. If you do not understand the tremendous distinction between these two positions, then for illustration look at the great gulf between mathematics and a scholar. The student position is generally one of strife and struggle, mutation and evolution, while Jesus contended that the truth would set us free from labor altogether. It was said to him, Thou makest thyself God. Yes, he did this very thing, and he further admonished, Follow me, the works that I do shall you do also. When you see as I see, think as I think, speak as I speak, make yourself God as I do, for we are all the self-same being. Now, dear friends, if Jesus is our absolutely perfect exemplar and way-shower, then it is certain that we shall arrive at the very understanding which he had, and ultimately make the self-same claim and assertion. We are the truth only because the truth is our nature. Of course, it could be no credit to us as individuals, since we are to put off such viewpoint altogether. This clearly explains the meaning of the words, By grace are ye saved. Since now we can see that nothing depends upon us as individuals, already and eternally we are in and of the indivisible whole, which is forever pure and perfect. When you recognize that this is the absolute teaching of Jesus, you will willingly and gladly accept it. And when your desire is to put aside all other teachings which do not agree with the Christ message, you will speedily understand it. As your heart speaks to you, follow it. And if your heart does not speak to you, then make room for this glorious event to take place. By giving up all claims to any separate or individual identity, no false thought nor belief can ever prohibit the realization of our divine destiny. One infinite whole. I can of my own self do nothing, John 3:30. As a personality or individuality of mine own self, I am nothing. Losing the sense of many selves in the mighty and luminous realization of infinite being as one consciousness, all-inclusive, we shall be set free from any problem confronting us, for it is certain no problem can exist in the one consciousness which is God. We may now clearly understand the first command, Thou shalt have no other gods, minds, lives, students, being, selves, individualities before me, the one infinite whole. We should acknowledge, love, and serve the one consciousness as the only selfhood there is. Only then shall we be able to fulfill the second command, Love thy neighbor as thyself. The infinite, indivisible self is our only neighbor. Thus, if anyone wishes our help, he will receive it if we but eliminate him as an independent or individual self and see and acknowledge the fullness, completeness, wholeness, security, and perfection of the one infinite and indivisible selfhood as all of him. For those who are not yet fully persuaded to make the full surrender of the self outside of God, this step may seem to be too great a one to take. Yet you can readily see that it was only when the Son wished an independent individuality of his own that he became a prodigal. And so are we prodigals until we accept the one mind and being as our own, and are ready and willing to be this and to disown any other. When the Son desired to return to the Father's house or accept the divine consciousness as his very own, immediately he entered into the abundance, peace, glory, and joy which ever abides herein. And it is absolutely certain that when we take our place as a divine perfection and nothing less, we too shall be filled with the fullness of all good. After he made his decision, and this time the right one, then he accepted the gift, the feast of love, filled to satiety. There is no way that we may be at one with the one except to cast aside our personal beliefs and be the one. Eliminating our false sense of individualities, the problems are eliminated also. We need not treat them, nor pray for deliverance from them, for such mental footsteps are practical only in a student position. Isaiah, when thinking of himself as a separate individual, said, "I shall go softly all my years in the bitterness of my soul." When identifying himself with the one consciousness, he proclaimed, "I am the Lord, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another. Before me there was no God made, neither shall there be after me. Look to me, and be ye saved, all the ends of the earth, for I am God, and there is none else." Thus shall it be with every one of us when we are willing to efface all thoughts of a selfhood apart from the one. Then shall we understand anew these soul-filled words, "Thine, O Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory, and the victory and the majesty. For all that is in the heaven and in the earth is thine. Thine is the kingdom, O Lord, and thou art exalted as head above all." 1 Corinthians 29:11. Through divine revelation, the final understanding will come to us that we are spirit. We are neither a human being, a material body, nor a separate individual. When we accept spirit to be the only substance, we shall comprehend these eternal words of the Christ. "I and my Father are one." John 10:30. One indivisible consciousness. The metaphysical system of formulating certain right thoughts in order to gain one's good has been a great and glorious improvement upon the altogether unawakened perception of being. Nevertheless, it does not reach that insight which discerns that one will effortlessly and truly have right thoughts, if he will but give up the notion of individualized states and stages of consciousness, and perceive in a new way the indivisible wholeness of self, body, and existence. When we think inspirationally, we are using the God mind, and so are directing, experiencing its attending peace, security, and happiness. Such thinking is always accompanied by inspirational feeling, since consciousness is both knowing and feeling. Accepting the new platform of one consciousness as whole and indivisible, we will cease to pluralize, multiply, or divide it. Such terms as minds, mentalities, individual states of consciousness, beings, and all similar terms have no place in ontology, the practice of reality and true being. Only when one releases himself from a false sense of multiple individualities and identifies himself with the one consciousness, which is whole and indivisible, does he think, feel, and act as the one and no other, then any troublesome problem fades away. Can you now see that the only reason we have been in the dark, masquerading as man with a separate individual consciousness, is because we did not know our entity as infinite life and being? Or grasp the deep significance in Jesus' words, "I and my Father are one." You will be the light of your world as soon as you are willing to waken out of the darkness of multiple individualities and individualized consciousness, and come to recognize, understand, and accept yourself as you really are. The same perfection as that of Jesus. While one believes that he has a mind and a consciousness of his own, he is unable to solve the problem of human existence. For how can a sleeper understand the things of his dreams while he is the dreamer of them? And when he awakens, the necessity is gone. Thus with us all, waking to function as life, the complete whole, the sleep leaves us, we are free, absorbed in the ocean of pure being. Ontology. There is one body and one spirit, even as ye are called in one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father in all, who is above all, and through all, and in you all. Ephesians 4:4-6. The term ontology is derived from Greek on, meaning being. It is neither a system nor a science of thought or being. It is the practice of being. It deals with the universal or whole as indivisible, an inseparable one, infinite, I am all in all, without beginning or end. Metaphysics overarches and transcends physics. Likewise, ontology overarches and transcends metaphysics. Moreover, as metaphysics does not mingle its practice with that of the physics, neither does ontology confound itself with the usual metaphysical viewpoint. Ontology accepts one substance only, spirit. Therefore, no matter or materiality, one mind, infinite and all-inclusive. Therefore, no human minds, no mortal minds, no mentalities, one indivisible being. Therefore, no mankind, no personality, no individualized consciousness. Ontology presents consciousness as one whole, inclusive of body and universe. In this presentation of being as one infinite, indivisible all, we accept Christ's teaching that I am the way, the truth, and the life. I and my Father are one. Therefore, we are this one and no other. We turn our vision to the real and the true, the absolute and complete, and hold it here. We see no corrections or adjustment to be made, no thing or thought to be healed or perfected. Willingly we let go both physically and metaphysical viewpoints that to us perfection may be all in all. And when all things shall be subdued to him, then shall the Son also be subject to him, and put all things under him, that God may be all in all. 1 Corinthians 15:28. Jesus was the name given him, who for our sake assumed the form of a man or individual. He knew that he was God, perfection, and not man, imperfection, who, being in the form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men. Embodying the eternal verity, I am the truth and the life, we are verily accepting the body of Christ. For Christ is the truth of our being, calling, come to me, the Christ reality of yourself. Take possession of it as your very own. See no other, hear no other, speak no other. The Holy Ghost is the Spirit of Christ, bearing witness that I am come. I am with you always, the life triumphant. When we adapted metaphysics, it was time for us to put away former physical ideas and practices pertaining to our health and well-being. Now, accepting ontology, the time is at hand to put aside the prevailing metaphysical viewpoint which gives credence to two worlds, the spiritual and the material, two powers, right and wrong thinking, two minds, the divine and immortal, two beings, God and man. Furthermore, and of even greater importance, we are to renounce absolutely and altogether the belief in multiple individualities or consciousness. To be sure, eternal gratitude for every thought and everything which lifted us from physics to metaphysics ever remains with us. But we know from within that we must continue on and up, nor ever cease to seek until we have found ourselves to be the truth and the way. Adapting ontology, we transcend the standpoint which admits of multiple human minds and a universal mortal mind, multiple people called mortals, mankind, or humanity, together with their respective miscalled bodies. We do this joyously and with no disparagement or dispraise, making no attempt to spiritualize, redeem, or correct the things in an assumptional, finite world. We hold our vision steadfast to the universe of truth and reality, to discover such verities as eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man, but God hath revealed to them us by his Spirit. 1 Corinthians 2:9. The Christ message in its entirety presents the presence of perfection everywhere. Thus we are not to acquire perfection, but know that we are it, and need only to expand our activities from this standpoint. Perfection is the substance and reality of all being, of life, and of all things. Be ye perfect, even as your Father is perfect. Be ye holy, as I am holy. How could we fulfill such admonitions unless the one all, believing otherwise, restricts progress and thus prohibits the necessary ascension? The only way we can speak with authority, it to speak is the one, for this only is omnipotent. The one way we can be perfect is to be that perfection which is all. In the practice of reality, we eliminate terminologies pertaining to lesser viewpoints and formulate terms which best express the meaning of the true and the real. Knowing that we are divine and not human, we may now outline and create according to our desires and aim, which emanating from his mind must be and are pure and holy. Our success as mind is assured and self-sustained. In fact, we may now do creative work of all kinds, not as labor, but as joyous expression of the self. This constitutes our self-existence. There is no lack of comprehension, desire, or ability in the perfect one mind or intelligence which we are. What a marvelous outlook, what a profound and all-embracing viewpoint. Life is that substance which is spirit. Thus its forms are forms of spirit, not matter. In the one universal consciousness, there are multitudinous spiritual identities. These identities are not outside the body of life or consciousness, but spiritual ideas included in it, as there is no outside to that which is one all. This explodes the theory of reflection. Identities are not individualized, but are in and of the one universal consciousness, which is the forever life, truth and love. In life, the whole, no identity can molest or in any way harm another. For life is indestructible, nor can mind misunderstand or mistake itself, nor love fail to be that which it eternally is, love. Ontology discloses that we are the kingdom of heaven. We are the Bible or book of life. We are mind, body, and universe, since they are the inseparable all. Seeing this great reality, we should be eager and willing to give up all contrary theories. When that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. 1 Corinthians 13:10. The true worshippers. But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshippers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeketh such to worship him. John 4:23. Ontology honors God, the one mind, body, universe, not only above all else, but as the all in all. It is not willing to divide the honor of God with any person, book, church, method, or system of thought or thing. The practice of ontology is the acceptance of the whole as omnipresent and universal. With the Christ, it invites, come, take, accept, enter thou. Could it be simpler, reader? Could you be asked to do less? The Christ message today, as 2,000 years ago, presents itself to receptive hearts, for such alone will hear and heed it. Jesus wept over Jerusalem, and many today may weep over those who will not heed the great answer. But none can say that life is not fair, just, and altogether loving, since it asks only that we worship it as our own, and as all there is. How could God, the one life and consciousness, be all, if there were countless human beings, each with a mind, life, being, and individuality of his own? Thus, in order for you to decide that good and perfection are all, you will of necessity need to eliminate yourself and everyone else as separate, limited individualities. Then and there only will you be worshiping the true God, who is the one universal presence, perfect, complete, all harmonious, and eternal. It was when Jesus asked Peter, "Whom say ye that I am?" that Peter got a glimpse of the wonder, power, and glory of Christ as the one selfhood, in contradistinction to the many imperfect forms of the individuality, and replied, "Thou art the Christ." In praise and glorification of Peter's new viewpoint, Jesus returned, "Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it to thee. You do not discern this as an individual, but my Father which is in heaven, the Spirit of the whole, has revealed it to you. And upon this rock or premise I will build my church, or establish my message, and the gates of hell, any opposition, shall not prevail against it." Matthew 16:15-18. What was Jesus' mission if not to bring the message of oneness and allness to those who, because of the false acceptance of themselves as individual identities, were limited and restricted in every way? In the God state, or state of knowing who and what we are, there is no choice. But while one sojourns as an individual, he must of necessity choose whether to remain as such or to be me, true worshipper, who accepts the self as the one all. The living water. Did Jesus possess infinite almighty power, while we have only as much as we can get together in an infinitesimal fraction called an individuality? So long as you believe yourself to be a single individual, automatically you are kept in bondage to the false notion that intelligence can be separated into segments and particles, and that you are one of them. No man cometh to the Father but by me, announced the mighty, I am the way. No one believing himself to be an individual being, life or entity, shall be able to let go such of a perverse and disastrous stand until he sees the oneness and allness of life and being as Jesus exemplified and portrayed for us. All power is given to me in heaven and on earth, he claimed. Do such astounding words sound like those of any present-day individual? If you are at present accepting the idea that you are a personality or individuality, then wonder no longer why you are experiencing limitation in all direction, limited spiritual understanding, limited inspiration, limited health, happiness, harmony, and limited prosperity and success in all your affairs. For if individualism has any significance at all, it stands for restriction and restraint in every way. Awaken from such folly. From the beginning, individualism is doomed to outer darkness and inexistence. What do the words I am mean, if not one's present perfection, at hand heaven, and wherein thou standest fullness of every good and perfect thing? Letting go all sense of acquisition and futurity, as well as of bondage to past events or circumstance, you may say I am, and experience its glory. How can one truly acknowledge the oneness and allness of intelligence while believing he is entitled to a consciousness of his own and an individualized sense of everything? Can you see that such reason is altogether unsound and illogical? If you are going to declare that you believe in the oneness and allness of being, then of necessity you must declare and accept yourself to be this very being. Just why did they crucify Jesus? Because his standpoint was different from theirs. He thought, talked, and acted from the viewpoint of perfection as all in all, they from the viewpoint of imperfection and limitation everywhere. He spoke from the state of all, they from the position the intelligence can be broken up into multiple lives, minds, and consciousness. Such pernicious notions still persist to this day. No wonder they marveled. Never man spake as this man, indeed not, for only one who is not in a man position can do this. Yet listen to the glorious and gracious invitation given all, whosoever will, let him take the water of life freely. Revelation 22:17. Do you hear? Freely, fully, completely, without limit or restriction. Oh, the glory of the Christ word! Whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst, but the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. John 4:14. How could such a sublime promise as this ever have been overlooked by us? How could we ever have come to accept any teaching other than the one which gives us all inspiration, knowledge, and understanding? Repeatedly, Jesus referred to the Father not as a big man in the sky, nor some mind or principle separate from himself. Just where did he place the Father? Off in the distance or outside of him? No. Over and over again he spoke of the Father within me. Where then does anyone get the authority to place God, perfection, outside of us? Not from the Christ. Reader, can you see this for yourself? The Father within, the kingdom of God within, heaven within. Said he who needed not that any man should teach him. The Father within means perfection within, eternal life within, almighty power within, unlimited inspiration and the possession of every good and perfect thing within our consciousness. You may say, I see this in a way, but I cannot see or say that I am God. Then this is the reason you have not yet released yourself from the belief that you are an individual. A spray of water from the ocean cannot say, I am the ocean, but as the whole it can. Jesus did not speak as an isolated spark of life and intelligence, but as the indivisible whole. To be sure, neither the Father nor heaven is within man. To consider oneself as man and still place perfection within is blasphemy. Jesus was not taking the position of man when he spoke such words. He was speaking from the state of the one, not the many, the indivisible, not the separate. In fact, he concisely declared, He that hath seen me hath seen the Father. John 14:9. Therefore, dear reader, give up your position as man, the student, follower, seeker after life, and you will directly find the fullness of life and truth to be in you, and shall know for a certainty, I and my Father are one. You express life, for you are life, but you are not the expression, you are it. You manifest intelligence, spirit, truth, and love, but you are not the manifestation, you are the original. If you will but meditate upon these ideas and let them enter into your heart, you are bound to find the Spirit, bearing witness that the message of ontology is the shining light, the living water. Our security, revelation of being, does not depend upon any person, church, or nation, but is available to everyone from the great within. Really, there is no genuine security in man's world. Today as never before, this fact is fast becoming a definitely known reality. Such a discovery and acknowledgement is the important first step. The second, that we find exactly where to place our security. The only security for one now, or at any other time, is the perception that he is the truth and life in which abides the kingdom of heaven. Only with thine eyes, spiritual intuition and discernment, shalt thou behold or comprehend the reward of the wicked, the insecurity and futility of human efforts to create and maintain an adequate material defense and protection. Because thou hast made the Lord, thyself, thy habitation, possession, there shall be no evil befall thee. Of course, nothing inharmonious or destructive could enter the spiritual world or consciousness. Because he has set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. Only because of our consuming love to be that which eternally we are, and to abide herein, shall we ever be able to find deliverance from these latter days. I will set him on high, because he hath known my name. Psalm 91. Reader, what is the name of our deliverer, if not, I am the life, I am the way, I am the door? Names of individualities will never be sufficient to save us, not even those carved in the letters of gold upon the very hearts of the people. No, one name only will constitute our salvation and deliverance, the name I am. This is the name of the impersonal, the whole, the one indivisible Christ, mind or consciousness. Apropos of this subject, we find in the 7th chapter of Matthew, in Christ's Sermon on the Mount, the following prophetic words. Lord, Lord, have we not in thy name cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works? And I will profess to them, I never knew you. Now such words as these are hard to accept without the insight and knowledge that the name Jesus alluded to was I am. The phrase, I never knew you, alludes to any who teach and perform healing works as individuals. No individual person will ever save us, so why be deceived about it? Jesus' words, I know you not, carry sovereign authority, and the wise listen to and heed them. My sheep hear my voice. No name of church, creed, book, nor person will ever save anyone. By grace are ye saved, and not of yourself. Already you are that which you seek, then why delude yourself longer? Why not now, this instant, accept and take possession of the one name above all others, the only name under heaven whereby we shall be saved, I am that I am. Lo, when we give our love to the right one, when we make the great decision between the self and man, when we lovingly and rejoicingly choose one name above all others, then have we set our love upon the right one to deliver us and set us on high. Joy, peace, and security shall be ours when we are able to live altogether and absolutely in the kingdom of perfection at hand. Even one moment's actual possession of it shall be our present mighty deliverance from an unhappy thought or thing. Verily, the secret place of the Most High is not far off, never any further than where we are. But we must be willing and ready to turn resolutely and completely from the false to the true, from the spectral to the real, and from the superficial man position to the actual Father state within us. For it is the perfect state within us which doeth the works of infinite love, peace, and harmony. One day a little girl was asked if she would be afraid to remain alone for a time in a big house. Well, why no, was the answer. Questioned further about it, she continued, God will be here. Well, how do you know that God will be here? Persisted the questioner. Because I will be here, was the simple but great answer. When we have relinquished the false view of separateness and division, and instead see and accept ourselves to be the one, then to us the gates of paradise open, and a new life begins. In this newly found kingdom of the self, at last we are ready to transcend the religion of books, give up teachers, organization, and doctrine, and accept only the great answer of the Christ. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Empty bottles. Put new wine into new bottles. Matthew 9:17. Put new wine into new bottles is the imperial command, and one of vital importance at the moment. For instance, a distinct and unmistakable new view of life and being has now come into focus. Boldly and authoritatively it calls attention to the exact teaching of Christ and insists upon the contemplation thereof. Take specifically the new perception. I am not a student but the truth. If this were adapted as merely another declaration to add to the store of one's personal knowledge, he would gain nothing from it, but rather deprive himself of the very light and inspiration which such new ideas bring. When this new light first appeared to me, I beheld it as a startling and astonishing revelation, not merely a new thought, but an altogether different platform. My heart leaped to let it completely saturate me with its significant meaning and absorb my whole attention. Having sought all my life after the truth, here I was at last face to face with the astounding fact that now I had found it to be myself. To be sure, I had many times caught glimpses of this supreme reality, but only as though to add another lovely idea to my present practical knowledge, or to claim it as a higher statement of reality. Now all others, everything, as it were, was swallowed up into this all-absorbing revelation. I am the truth. What a new foundation it was to me, a new platform, a new premise altogether. Reader, does this revolutionary realism mean as much to you? It will, if only you will heed the wisdom of Jesus to put new wine into new bottles. And if you do not heed it, what then? You will simply be postponing your opportunity to take your heaven-given security, peace, and safety. In the light of this new revelation of ontology, let us see what the bottles in the parable represent. Surely something which is perishable, finite, and material, they therefore refer to the limited, the personal and divided, that which begins and ends. What then could they mean but such forms which denote personalities and individualities, limitation, materiality, mortality, the idiosyncrasies of those in a far country, the masquerade of many minds, many false beliefs, many separate lives in being? Here intelligence appears bottled up in human brains, sight in eyes, hearing in ears, and full function of all life conditioned, localized, and circumstanced. Such forms are supposed to contain life and substance, but they are hollow like a phantom or a shell. They but represent the false concepts of individualism, separateness, the many, in contradiction to the one. They are dust to dust, for there is no life, intelligence, nor substance in them. This explains the appearance called death. The so-called individual supposedly escapes from one bodily form to function in another. Learn the difference here and now between multiple material forms and the one infinite spiritual body. Rise and accept the new idea and perception that since life is one indivisible whole, the body of life is the identical substance. You then shall know another kind of bottle altogether, the imperishable identity which belongs to you as the life and the truth. You are infinite life itself. Thus you possess the body of infinite life, and no limited material form belongs to you at all. The body of life is immortal, immutable, imperishable, and eternal, indivisible as Spirit God. It can never be pluralized nor separated into human or material form. This spiritual body comprises infinite, multifarious identities, which are imperishable, omnipresent, perfect, and tangible to mind or consciousness. They represent the character of spirit, mind, all that is true and perfect, such as beauty, loveliness, harmony, wholeness, and all similar qualities. You are this very life, mind, being. You are this identical consciousness. When you see this as the forever truth, and the Spirit bears witness with you, then you will be willing to let go entirely the mistaken belief that you are an individual living in a human existence. Listen closely. Can an idea think? An idea really is the think or thought, isn't it? It is in this sense that we supposed ourselves to be the thoughts of God. Still, all the while we knew that we were thinking, feeling, acting, being. In fact, we were instructed to be thinkers. Now, how could there be a thinking idea? Do your ideas think? When you see your image in the mirror, does it reflect your life at all? Does it reflect sight, hearing, thinking? Isn't it colossal folly to imagine such a thing? We know for a certainty that we think, hear, see, and act, and in no way do we resemble that image in the mirror. Contrast this form of religious teaching with that of Christ Jesus, who wielded almighty and omnipotent power, and who claimed it as his very own, who never intimated in any way that he was depending upon some outside original for it. The wonder and the glory, the infinite charm and altogether loveliness of the Spirit of truth, how it satisfies, how it glorifies, how it exalts us to know at last that we are the thinker of divine ideas, that we are the infinite mind with its unlimited almighty power and not the lifeless form of it in a mirror. All such theories are old bottles, now to be discarded. Resurrection denotes a progressive change in form, an advancing awareness which continually expresses itself in outlines of greater beauty, activity, vitality, and power. If all the beauty, glory, and grandeur now seen from a limited personal perception is entrancing, how much greater shall be the wonder and glory when seen from the luminous, infinite understanding. Ascension is the taking possession of the self as infinite spirit, God, which cannot be localized nor embraced by any form whatsoever, but ever expresses the body of infinite life, truth, and love. Rejoicingly, we should now renounce and disown all claim to the perishable bottles or forms which for so long have restrained us, and gloriously and inspirationally take possession of a body of perfection into which no discord of any kind can ever come. How safe and secure we feel. Now all fear departs. We're at home. We are in our Father's house, where we enjoy our very own. The real universe. The spiritual universe is the body or kingdom of infinite spiritual ideas and identities, infinite spiritual thoughts and modes of expression of the one universal mind or consciousness. Perfect consciousness possesses perfect inspiration, perfect wisdom, goodness, beauty, and loveliness, and the power of expressing them, perfect qualities, faculties, and activities. As we glimpse this light and continue to live and expand in it, we discern spiritual realities in a new way, and revelation continuously dawns upon us. We begin to learn more and more about ourself as spirit, the perfect and divine as our beloved taught, ourself as life, truth, and love, immortal, infinite, indivisible. Then presently we come face to face with the awareness of the spiritual body as pure, immortal, immutable, and all harmonious. Such insights as this forsakes the position of mentally changing, correcting, healing, dematerializing, or spiritualizing a spectral, unsubstantial form, and instead seeks with light and glory to behold, discern, and take possession of the one body of spirit, which belongs to everyone, and to claim it as our very own. There shall in no wise enter into anything that defileth or maketh a lie. Revelations 21:27. For instance, what we now call fingers, eyes, feet, and so on, nose, bird, lion, such exist as distinguishable spiritual identities, omnipresent, unchangeable, imperishable, immortal, and tangible. The infinite body of spirit, inclusive of its ideas and identities, can never be corrupted, defiled, lost, nor harmed in any way. Do not attempt to control any suppositional material form by any manner of spiritual thinking whatsoever. Look away from it entirely and altogether. Look into the kingdom of truth, life, and love, and here behold the immutable, the infallible, and the absolute. In the kingdom consciousness within you abides the eternal spiritual body, which is forever yours, omnipresent, incorruptible, invariable, eternal, spiritual, real, and tangible. Reader, will you take it? Look now to the concept of heaven as the perfect and ever-present universe, and determine for yourself what there is to be seen here and to be discovered as your very own. What thoughts, ideas, identities do you see? Tell yourself and hold fast to such flaming intuitional realization. Do you not feel and appreciate harmony, perfection, changelessness, completeness, purity, joy, beauty, peace, and similar qualities of being? Take them, for they are yours. They are you. The kingdom of spirit, life, mind, into which you are looking is the holy city, the kingdom which Jesus spoke of as heaven, and around which he based so many of his marvelous parables. Always he beheld it as consciousness, imploring us to let go and give up any and all human footsteps which are a hindrance to our acceptance of it. Vividly, stirringly, compellingly, he set forth the importance of our accepting heaven, the holy city, as above all material possessions. He foretold that no labor could gain it, no personality attain it, purity alone could perceive and possess it. Why should one continue to struggle in darkness with inconsistencies and confusions, when the joy and glory of knowing that we are spirit awaits us all? How simple and easy to accept immaculate and immeasurable spirit to be all of us, and we to be wholly this. Lighted with the light of our own being, we know that we are self-existent and self-complete. On the mount, in the beginning was consciousness, and consciousness was God, and there was nothing made but what was made of consciousness or God. In the beginning means now, or any time one begins to see things as they rightfully are, when the light of revelation dawns for you. The sunshine in your garden could say, I am undetached from the whole. I am not here as a piece or bit of all the sunshine there is, but since I cannot be divided or separated from the whole, then I am that, nor can I be otherwise. In the same way you are spirit, you are consciousness. I am spirit, I am consciousness. It is the same spirit, consciousness, the same life, being, the same body, universe. It is all one whole. Such was the simple teaching of the Christ, and the reason he spoke so frequently in terms of I am. Indisputably, there is but the one I, the I which is consciousness, the I which is life, the I which is the whole. To be able to see this is also to see the impossibility of mind, lives, beings, or individualized consciousness, moreover, the time to give up enacting them. When the heart is ready, the Christ appears. For Christ, self-revelation is always here and at hand. In the beginning was the infinite consciousness, and all things were made by consciousness, and without consciousness was not anything made that was made. Reader, when will you awaken to see that you are this consciousness with whom all things are possible, and whom all things exist, and that this consciousness and its expression is all there is? Accepting this consciousness as creative mind, we may now begin to create or produce many new and wonderful things. Indeed, the ability to create is our very nature, but never as the assumptive individual. When one claims the power and authority to create in the name or form of man, he does so in ignorance and darkness, and such presumption is destined to failure. Our ability to create abundance of all good begins when we repudiate the false position of personal creatorship and think as the self, the universal creator. Even a glimpse of this wonder and glory thrills us, and of course, participation fulfills it. The marvelous new stratoplane of today is significant of life as the whole, in peace and harmony, above the finite, above storms and dangers, above man and his presumptions, symbolizing the wonder and glory of the ascension. As people begin more clearly to comprehend that consciousness is the one universal unlimited mind, they will more readily give up the false viewpoint of separateness and individuality. Then limitations will abate everywhere. A new heaven and a new earth shall be established, where new ideas and new abilities will be used to create the myriad of useful things which are needed, in order that we progress into an experience of greater and fuller joy and activities in all direction. As the One, the power to create is present in all of us. The recognition and acceptance of this astonishing realism will open up unlimited resources and bring new and greater prosperity to everyone. The author Edward Bellamy had vision of just such a creative new age when he conceived his book, Equality. Many of his revolutionary ideas might well be put into practical use today. Those now ready to give up a part for the whole, the limited for the unlimited, many false minds, selves, bodies, and activities for the one creative mind, and its all-inclusive perfect ideas and abilities, will find a new age present, an altogether new world at hand. Here all shall live in peace, harmony, happiness, and the joyous experience of every good and perfect thing. When shall this glorious event come to pass? Whosoever will, let him begin now to prepare himself for it. For if he is to experience it at all, he must be the creator of it. As creative mind and creator are one, what can you lose by accepting this new view of creator and creation? On the other hand, what shall be your loss if, seeing the vast power and glory before you, for personal reasons you reject and refuse them? Moreover, your readiness to act upon this self-revealing light will give you the strength and ability to convert others to this glorious viewpoint. Thus today, as of yore, we hear the clarion call of the Christ. Repent of separateness and division. Repent of personalities and individualism. Repent of limitation, bondage, restriction everywhere. Lay down the mistaken view of the Creator as an unknown being outside of you and afar off. See and be that which you eternally are, this identical one. This is the day. This is the day which the Lord hath made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Psalm 118:24. Today is the day of power, authority, action, and dominion. Today is the day of our Lordship, the day when it may be said of us, Thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall be established to thee. Job 22:28. No need, then, that we look into the future for peace to come or joy and gladness to be at hand, for wars to cease and sorrows flee by. Nor any need to resort to the planets for information regarding our prospects for security and happiness. All such wrong thinking should be renounced, as well as the mistaken viewpoint that one needs to contend with a mortal mind or material sense, which is supposedly attempting to sow evil suggestion everywhere. Now is the time for you and for all to take a stand as one with that being which is all power in heaven and earth, and to believe in no other. Only because he thinks himself isolated from the whole as some weak, helpless mortal, does one accept such superstition and vain imagination. Seeing that we are mind and not man, and Lord and not a servant, we cease to contend with thought or thing, and furthermore, stop believing that any personal or impersonal evil needs to be vanquished. Verily this is a day, and every hour from eternity to eternity is a day, to accept the glorious omnipotence and omniscience of ourself and being, the only power there is or can be. This is the time to speak with authority, to exercise dominion, and be a law to all things in and of our consciousness, even as commanded by the Christ. Your willingness and readiness to give up that which concerns your assumptional personality, or individual identity, to think and live as the perfect self which you eternally are, is what entitles you to direct perception and illumination. This is the day for you to determine how willing and ready you are. What a difference it makes if one toils with the various mental practice of healing and struggles with conflicting thoughts and efforts, or if he deals confidently with pure spirit alone. One's only need is a spiritual awakening to the sublime fact and actuality that we are spirit, self-illuminating and self-contained. Corruption, limitation, disease, war, and death appear because people and nations have not yet cognized the glorious truth of being. Looking above all else to God as light and wisdom within oneself sets one free from bondage to personality and incorrect teaching. The Christ presence. I go, and I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. John 14:3. Now I am here with you as one of you, and in a form like yours, that you may listen to and heed me, and come to see what is true of me is true of you, and what I am, you are also. I shall come again, but my second coming will not be in the limited form of man, but as universal spirit and consciousness, and to receptive hearts everywhere. I, the Christ, the still small voice of revelation, will talk and walk with you, love and direct you, and disclose to you your identicalness with me, and the great and mighty power of your creative mind and being. I, the Christ, shall be with you always, and bring all things to your remembrance, so that you shall be as I am, the light of the world. My yoke is easy, and my burden is light. In the end you shall find by simple instruction to be the easiest, as well as the single way to bring you the great answer. I, the Spirit of truth, ever present, shall bring whosoever will to accept my teaching as supreme and absolute, to see oneness as allness, and allness as oneness. I will write my words of inspiration, light and glory on the tablet of the heart, and whosoever will, let him leave all other views of life to accept as the seamless robe, the wholeness and indivisibleness of being. Fear not, fear nothing, for what is there to fear in the world of all good, all love, and all glory? Fear no one, for who is there to harm you in the world where you are a lot to yourself? Have you not been believing and declaring that God is all? How can God be all to you if you consider yourself a separate being or entity, your neighbor another being or entity, and so forth? Can God be indivisible perfection if there are multitudes of personalities who are foolish, ignorant, sick, at war with one another, and altogether vain? Can you reconcile that which is irreconcilable? Can you declare infinite good, infinite love, infinite peace and harmony, and at the same time believe that there is evil anywhere? Verily, your misunderstanding of being and of existence shall be likened to a foolish man, which built his house upon the sand, and the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. Matthew 7:26. Many lives and many minds appear only because of ignorance or mental darkness. They will disappear when the one selfhood is enthroned in the heart and recognized to be the universal, excluding all individualism. Fear not, fear nothing, let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God as perfection and completeness outside of you. Now rise in glory to see that this very being which I am, you are also. Put away from you all your idols and idolatries, your personal attachment to thing, doctrine, and forms of every kind and nature. Awake, O immortal, and put on the seamless robe, the understanding that I and my Father are one. This is the wedding garment. This the Christ presence you embody when you see and accept perfection and completeness to be all of you, and an assumptive self to be nothing. Verily, the revelation of the one being, the one body, and the one universe is unlimited, immaculate substance spirit, is my second coming, my second presence in your midst, which, as you receive and embody, shall usher you, as it were, into that place which I have prepared for you, and to the full vision and knowledge of your identicalness with the one mind, life, being, even as I am. Equality. The ringing tones of him who knew the great requisite as well as the great answer still reverberate down through the ages. Whosoever will come after me, or take possession of the infinite all, let him deny himself, or disclaim any form or individual selfhood, take up his cross, abide with this new idea, and follow me. Accept my teaching as absolute and supreme. Mark 8:34. He that findeth his life to be the one indivisible spirit shall lose it, as man, a separate individuality, and he that loses his life as man shall find it as the universal selfhood. Matthew 10:39. It should now be easy for one to grasp that all earthly troubles and problems, including the present war conditions, appear solely because of the belief in many individualities, each accepting a self and identity of his own. Surely in God, the infinite one and all, there are no such states, beliefs, nor conditions. No wonder the Christ introduced and stressed the new idea of emptying out the old bottles or former teaching, and the denial of oneself as having any individualized sense of life and things. Such wrong practice alone denotes the prodigal position, the turning away and separating of oneself from perfection as the whole, and so results in a limited sense of good and abundance everywhere. Nor can such outcome ever be surmounted, rectified, healed, or overcome individualistically. The one and only remedy is to follow our Savior's admonition to accept the universal self as our very own. In this way, whosoever will shall come naturally and easily into possession of the all-good, in which abundance and perfection dwell and abide. No one needs to take up the study of physics nor metaphysics before studying ontology. Anyone anywhere, desiring to know the truth about life and being, and the way to experience its peace, health, harmony, and fullness of all good, may now take the great answer, and without any previous religious training, come face to face with the divine and perfect, and prepare himself for direct perception and illumination. Citizens of heaven, awake! Give up your mistaken idea that you are an individual and as such entitled to the whole. It is simply not so. As an individual, you are entitled only to a part, a portion, a limited amount of everything. This is exactly what you are falsely claiming for yourself when you claim individuality, just like the prodigal when he wanted to become a distinct individual and operate on his own. Do you recall what happened to him? He was unsuccessful. He utterly failed. The time came when no man gave to him, that is, he came to the end of his individualistic possession. Then somehow he remembered, the veil lifted, his viewpoint changed. Presently he looked toward the infinite, the whole, his very life and substance. The longer he looked, the greater his stride to it, and the farther he placed the form of individualism. To get to the Father, the house of unlimited abundance, this idea now completely consumed him. Strange, even the first steps toward it began to take away some of the terrible fear and suffering which had enveloped him. Now he rejoiced, and his heart was warm in a thrill. Just the thought of that whole which now he began to take as actuality his very own quickened his steps and accelerated his speed. Even when yet he thought he had a long distance to cover, he felt fullness and perfection right at his side, and it was so. Then he disowned all form of individuality altogether. Rapturously he took possession of that self, which is the great answer. Reader, surely now the Spirit within you is bearing witness to this great realism, is it not? Your heart is touched. You are constrained to withdraw yourself from the mistaken position of separateness and division. Am I right? Then take all and fear nothing. Rejoicingly, devotedly, and wholeheartedly abide with it forever and ever. The general idea of equality is an imperfect and incorrect one, since considered from the false individualistic viewpoint, here all wish to attain the all, individually. Their ideal is to establish equal rights for everyone as multiple individualities. This ideal of equal rights for all is a true and correct one, but the belief that this can be accomplished individually is a mistaken premise. Thus continue the forms of war, struggle, lack, and limitation everywhere. Despite the inherent knowledge in everyone that he is divinely entitled to all, automatically and inevitably lies separates himself from it because of his false viewpoint of individualism. Prosperity is equally available to everyone, but not like an apple which may be broken up in equal parts. Should each take a part of the apple, he would obviously receive but a limited amount, thus would continue in want. Now then, the supposition that prosperity or abundance is something which is divisible, like an apple, is a postulate which is absolutely erroneous and without foundation. This very fallacy presents the success and fulfillment of the idealism of equality for which everyone clamors today. Never can the abundance of all good be detached from God, the infinite whole. Attempting to separate them or to secure abundance of itself must inevitably prove futile, since Creator and creation are one. Emphatically and truly, everyone is divinely entitled to all the abundance he can take, even as to all the air he breathes. But the idea of equalization, of abundance, based on the viewpoint that all are entitled to it separately or individually, will ever prove futile. Air, for instance, is an indivisible whole. Unlike the apple, it cannot be separated into portions. Exactly so with life and being. For any to obtain unlimited abundance, he must accept the premise that it is not something to be acquired, earned, nor secured, but to come into his possession as though it were his very own, for such it is. Content to be but a limited man, how dare he claim rights to the unlimited? It is an utter impossibility for one to gain his life without losing it, or to enjoy access to the blessed whole without disowning a separate identity. Only when we accept the Creator of it, we are entitled to unlimited abundance, since Creator and abundance are one. Therefore, the single way is for us to identify with it. When we have fulfilled life's requisite, then equalization of abundance is ours forever. I am the life. I am the resurrection and the life, declared Jesus on that memorable occasion when he raised his friend Lazarus from the dead. Just previous to this authoritative statement, Martha had voiced the prevailing belief that at a general resurrection or last day she expected to see her brother again. How quickly Jesus repudiated such a theory, disdaining to place the wholeness and health of his friend in some imaginative faraway future. No wonder, too, that he boldly announced for himself and for all who would accept him, I am the resurrection and the life. I am the resurrection out of the imaginative unreal into the full possession of my eternal self as heaven now and always. Such resurrection is not dependent upon time, place, doctrine, nor personalities, nor upon a theoretical distant deity, but is myself, yourself, the one indivisible and universal selfhood without shadow of turning. To see that we are life itself, not shifting students of it, the one Spirit, immutable and undefiled, precludes death, and thus eliminates any necessity for resurrection. He that believeth in me and in my teaching, though he were dead, or asleep to progress and revelation, yet shall he live, and be aware of himself as he really is. Always Jesus knew and identified himself with perfection and completeness at hand, so should we do likewise. A woman struggling for 2 years to pay her debts, to find employment, and keep possession of her little home, was brought face to face with utter despair. For on the following day certain authorities were to take possession of her home, her belongings, everything, leaving her penniless, homeless, a failure. In this crucial moment a voice spoke to her, saying, They cannot touch your being. This was her hour of resurrection, instantly saw that she might lose every material form or thing, but never her being. She decided for this last night to live in being. She slept peacefully and awakened happy and refreshed, still knowing that nothing can touch my being. Early a knock came upon the door, and there stood not the authorities, but a messenger boy who handed her a sealed envelope. Her services were requested by a large and important firm in that city. The work proved permanent and paid the highest salary she had ever received. She kept her home and her belonging, paid her debts, and more important still, learned a never-to-be-forgotten lesson, that we are to locate our wealth and our supply of all things in our own being. Identifying herself with the being who is all, and so possesses all, and letting go all effort to obtain anything from man's world of limitation and lack, effortlessly she came into possession of her permanent peace, security, and abundance, and the enjoyment of all needful things. Entering the new era of today, we should welcome with open arms the new and true understanding of the Christ teaching, and happily come into the experience of all things for which we now stand in need. As creative mind, we shall produce everything needful and useful. Seeing this as the eternal fact, will you arise and come into the recognition and awareness of yourself and creative mind as identical? Will you resurrect yourself from any dead beliefs in an outside I am and a future heaven? Then shall you ascend into the glorious realization that I am the resurrection and the life. The last shall be first. The 20th chapter of Matthew we find the parable of the laborers. Here Jesus spoke of a householder who hired laborers for a penny a day, paying exactly the same amount to those who came at the 11th hour as those who toiled the entire day. Since such dealing appears to be unjust and inconsistent, let us look beneath the surface for the real meaning of this doctrine and find its underlying viewpoint. Who are the laborers? Who is the householder, and what does the penny represent? The laborers are those who call themselves man, mortals or personalities, believing life to be separate into parts. The householder is the Lord's self as the whole. The penny signifies heaven, which being all there is of the reward, none may receive more, regardless of the length of time consumed in laboring for it. The 11th hour signifies the final step of awakening, which takes one out of the laboring class into that of the householder, out of division into oneness. So-called mortals, individuals, or human consciousness, aspiring for ways to achieve a more complete form of peace and satisfaction here on earth, endeavor to change the picture of limitations, darkness, and bondage about them into better, brighter, and more satisfactory ones. Such labor is done by the sweat of the brow, or with a more advanced and spiritually progressive outlook, by the effort of thought. Nevertheless, the point of view is the same. Certain work must be done by the individual. While the multitudes are engaged in this fashion, others dare to claim the same reward, yet use neither muscle nor thought to earn it, for they see that they and the Father are one. Then arise dissensions among the laborers, for why, they question, should anyone lay claim to security, peace, health, and the abundance of all good, without laboring with hand or mind to procure them? Paradoxically, we read that the late arrivals not only received the selfsame reward, but were paid before those who had borne the burden of the day, and moreover that Jesus imperiously decreed, the last shall be first and the first last. The first are those who believe they are individuals needing to earn, gain, or acquire the heavenly good. Those who give up the belief that they are separate individuals to accept the indivisibility of the one represent the last. Thus shall these be first to come into the joys of the new age, now approaching, for renouncing the position of the laborers, they identify the self with the householder, the universal whole. Coming face to face with the great reality that as the self, one is the truth and not a disciple, the whole and not an idea, the thinker and not the image, he disclaims all association with human footsteps to be the way to himself, the way of immortal and everlasting life, the way of almighty and omnipotent mind. Verily, the way of the Lord, or householder, in short, the way of the one, the whole. Reader, which will you be? Enter thou. The parable of the talents, Matthew 25, carries a similar illuminative message. Again we find the servants typifying those who, believing they are persons or individualities, strive to gain their separate good. Here the Lord designates him who knows he is the whole, the one mind which is all. The talents, the new perception, and the inspirations continually appearing. A servant receives as many talents as his desire and acceptance thereof permit, according to his ability. If one receives a new revelation, for instance, and immediately seeks to enlarge and dwell upon it, assuredly additional light and understanding, together with their attendant good, is given him. But if one is given the new idea and he heeds it not, allowing it no root within him, but instead buries it in the ground, losing sight of it altogether, he then is not only cut off from any additional blessing, but moreover begins to lose the little that he has. True, to every one that hath genuine receptivity and unselfish love for God and all spiritual realities, shall be given more understanding and greater wealth of all good things. And lies shall have abundance, but from him that hath not made the great surrender of selfhood apart from the one infinite whole, and is unwilling to take the progressive step forward, shall be taken away even that little personal understanding and wealth which he believes he hath. Functioning as the one all-knowing mind and eliminating altogether the so-called individual thinking, we are now and here the one thinker, and no other, and are literally the one consciousness and none else. The wedding garment. In the 22nd chapter of Matthew we find the stirring parable of the marriage of the king's son. Here, in inimitable metaphor, Jesus presents the following points of consideration: the gracious invitation to the marriage, the requisite of the wedding garment, the exactitude of life's demands. Come into the acceptance of the great whole, imperatively calls the Spirit to us all. Marriage, therefore, is our full response to this call. The wedding garment is the love and purity we possess as the one. The same perversity which Jesus so stirringly and startlingly depicted in his parable prevails to this day. That is, many are unwilling to denounce individualism and wish to continue with their merchandise, the personal ideas and theories pertaining to their separate interpretations of being, thus reject life's progressive demands. The wedding is ready, the great answer is already at hand, but they which were bidden were not worthy. Many prefer to remain with their own personalities, ritualism, and attachment. Not only are they unworthy to receive the reward of progress, but often they look with disapproval upon those who leave the beaten path of the multitude to follow the emancipating light of the Christ. The more willing one is to surrender the notion of a becoming and accept the vision, I am, the sooner shall he participate in the marriage with his Lord self and put on the wedding garment. The common belief that we are to unfold into our heavenly state as a bud unfolds into a full vision is absolutely at variance with Christ's teaching. Said he, "You are the light of the world. In you is the kingdom of heaven. Look and behold. Consider yourself man no longer, nor continue your search for the truth. You are the truth now, and never have been otherwise." An illuminative and helpful story is told about an animal which was educated as a sheep, though born a lion. Living with his foster mother as sheep, he took upon himself her characteristics of timidity and gentleness, even bleating. One day his cub lamb wandered off near a deep forest. There before him stood the majestic form of a huge beast, which led forth a terrific roar. Instead of being frightened, something within the cub lamb stirred and wakened. Breathlessly he listened. Then spontaneously he answered back with the roar of a lion. Did this animal need to acquire the lion nature, or to unfold it into it, or to put off the qualities of a sheep? No, he needed to be wedded to his true self and nature. Born a lion, nothing could make him a sheep. This story may well apply to all of us. Though educated as manly individuals, subjected to sickness, sin, and all sorts of limitations, all the while we have been life eternal, truth triumphant, and the forever I am. Practically all of Jesus' parables contain the same significant lesson, mainly, we are the one and not the many. We must give up separateness and individualism. We must accept wholeness and oneness. Those who will not yield to these requirements shall necessarily continue in limitation. Through the light of ontology, we can now grasp the great teaching of Jesus clearly, and can see and understand in nothing but the mistaken acceptance of individualized consciousness has brought about a reverse situation, where dishonesty, impurity, and unworthiness appear, and where limitation seems everywhere. To eliminate the mistaken belief in personality would simultaneously do away with discord of every name and nature, for no lack or inharmony exists in God the All. As nothing could change the nature of the lion, nor cause him to be other than he really was, so nothing has actually changed us, nor caused us to be other than that which truly we are, but have not known. Listen earnestly and eagerly to hear the still echoing truth and the call of the way-shower. I am the truth. Spontaneously, rapturously, may there burst from your heart the great answer, I am the truth. Then shall you be wedded to the whole, and wear the wedding garment. The bridegroom cometh. Behold, the bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him. Matthew 25:6. How shall I gain this spiritual inspiration so to leave all and follow the Christ? Go and buy for yourself is the answer to each of us as given in the parable of the 10 virgins. The bridegroom typifies the self as the whole, thus heaven. The virgins represent those who claim to be pure in heart and desirous of gaining the true understanding. The lamps present receptivity, the oil the flow of divine inspiration. Now 5 of the virgins accepted the self as the one I am, and kept in close touch with progress and revelation. The other 5 heard the message of oneness as only another theory, presenting to them a new road of travel, but gave no genuine attention to it, nor made any place for it to root in their heart. Soon they lost sight of it altogether. At midnight, the hour least expected, there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him. According to the parable, those who had accepted the message, abiding in the one consciousness of indivisible wholeness, feeling no insecurity nor limitation of any kind. But the foolish, they who rejected the message and regarded themselves as so many separate identities, now felt a need of more light and its coexistent supply of good. Thus they hastened to the wise, saying, Give us of your oil, for our lamps have gone out. Here Jesus depicted the general tendency of this day, that is, to imagine one can borrow good, as though good could ever be separated from life the whole. What happened then? Did they who had given up the belief in separateness and division now lend their illumination to others? What a deep and pertinent question this is. Let us see how Jesus answered. The wise answered, saying, Not so, lest there be not enough for us and you, but go ye rather to them that sell and buy for yourself. Such a teaching as this would sound cold and selfish unless understood from the viewpoint of the Christ. Could anyone borrow from reality? Can the truth lend understanding to you or to me? Can the unlimited be separated or divided? The impossibility of it is surely apparent. None of us can give or lend truth to another, inasmuch as the truth is indivisible, and even now our very own. Regardless of what true ideas one would like to give to another, it could never satisfy. Only limitless abundance can ever completely satisfy anyone. So we find the wise telling the foolish, Buy for yourself. All must go to the all. Here alone is the fount of abundance. But while the foolish went about individualistically, intent on borrowing or obtaining for their separate selves, lo, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut. The bridegroom, or perfect awareness of the universal self as God, the perfection of all, may come to our attention at any moment. Accepting perfection to be one whole, impossible of separateness, simultaneously we close the door upon the materialistic viewpoint. To be sure, there may be those who still insist that we open the door to them and speak again from the old standpoint of personality and individualism. Then the Lord answers, Verily I say to you, I know you not. The perfect can know not of imperfection. Once having found ourself to be life, truth, and love, which are infinite and universal, indivisible, and at hand, let us watch that we abide herein. God is all. I am the answer to every problem, the fulfillment of every desire. This is true and certain since our own being is God, and since our own being constitutes our security in all good. God is neither a personal nor an impersonal being, separate or distinct from ourself, but the self of every one. The knowledge of our oneness with this all-sufficient and all-sufficing God being constitutes our perfect and complete solution of problems of every kind, to every emergency, demand, or need. When we are fully wedded to our almighty omnipotent being, accepting ourselves to be the very truth instead of an aspiring student, the dynamic original instead of a lifeless reflection, omniscient mind instead of incompetent man, then we shall experience no sickness or limitation of any kind, for they are not in the house of the Lord. As our awareness becomes more and more clarified and transparent, and we sing and soar, we shall be the living proof of the great realism, God is all. Considering one infinite mind alone, it is easier for us to adapt the vision of immaculate and irresistible perfection as always present and intact in every one. It seems natural for us to say that man sins, is sick, incapable, and utterly worthless, but raising our vision from man to mind, how much more natural to confess the impossibility of us as mind to see or feel other than the perfect continuous supply of good in everything and every way. We know that the one does not see evil or lack or any good, nor is there any circumstance, thought, or thing which can influence or persuade mind to do so. Mind is ever consciously aware of its irresistible and all-harmonious action and expression, and it includes all being. Identified with the divine, everyone loves the eternal good, nor has anyone seen or experienced lack of any kind. Nothing exists to oppose its harmonious action and expression in every direction. God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. 1 John 1:5. Mind is the conceiver and the thing conceived, and it includes all ideas and identities. Admitting only the one thinker and thinking, we are bound to express the very life which mind is, that life of wholeness, harmony, and success, and live in the universe of joy, peace, and delight, the universe wherein there is no darkness at all. Wedded to the one and no other, we are able to transmit this glorious and emancipating message to receptive hearts everywhere. When called upon to help, we should see mind and not man, mind perfect in every thought and action. Since there is no reality except that of harmony and perfection, we should perceive mind to include everyone, thus everyone to be this consciousness and no other. Truly, then, we are worshiping a God who, to us, is all. When we behold Jesus as the truth and life instead of a particularly good man, naturally we shall discern that in order to be like him, we must be identically the same. In John's Gospel, the 14th chapter, we find the eternal promise of the Christ, the Comforter, the Spirit of truth. He dwelleth with you and shall be in you. This Comforter is the direct perception or spiritual realization that we are the truth. Then we know that we are not an image, a man, or a reflection, but pure consciousness, which is the I, or God. This Comforter is the very spirit of Jesus' teaching which comes to you and to me, bringing us into the conscious awareness of the perfect self or Father state, to be intact in us all here and now. Lifting our vision above mortals and humanity, we simultaneously lift it above states and levels of consciousness, and admitting one state as the all and only, we see all as in and of perfection, and none outside of it. We are the one mind beholding itself as the first, the last, the beginning, and the end. Acknowledging the one consciousness to be perfect and to include all, we no longer deal with humans nor personalities, nor consider how to heal, educate, or regenerate them. If we are to love everyone, then it is imperative that we see them as they truly are and in no other fashion. Any view contrary to this is a compromising one and is beholding as through a glass darkly. In order to see face to face, we must turn from the double vision which permits of God and man, life and death, abundance and limitation, consciousness and mortal mind. Reader, are you willing now to forsake all, though, and talk of planes, states, and realms, in order that you may see and accept the one state only, the Father reality, present and intact, our very self and being? Verily, for us to exist at all, we must be and are the one life, the one thinker, the one mind is the whole. As such, we have inspiration, revelation, and true thinking. We know that the world within us is without evil of any kind. Listen closely. If God is there where you are, then all good is there where you are. Health, harmony, activity. If God is there where you are, then true and right thoughts are there where you are. Fearlessness, power, receptivity. If God is there where you are, then peace and understanding are there with you now. Happiness, blessedness, security. If God is there where you are, then indivisibility is there where you are. Oneness, allness, I amness. If God is there where you are, then nothing opposing him is there where you are. Nothing contrary to him is there where you are. Nothing unlike him is there where you are. Viewpoint. Healing has nothing to do with the seeming material forms, nor with the one spiritual body. Nothing to do with physical symptoms, conditions, nor discord of any kind. It has to do only with one's viewpoint. Often it is as simple as for one to decide whether he possesses a material form which is discordant and so needs healing, or the spiritual body which is perfect and into which no discord can possibly come. Disowning all claims to a finite material form and taking spontaneous possession of a spiritual body which is ours from everlasting to everlasting, we cannot fail to experience the glory and wholesomeness thereof. Claiming possession of the spiritual body which needs no healing, since it is ever immaculate, perfect, and complete, we prove ourselves to be the one being and no other. Verily, our body is beautiful as the morning star and light as the sun. However, just to believe it to be spiritual, perfect, and ever harmonious is not sufficient. We are to take possession of it as our very own. How, you may ask? Through love and devotion, like a burning flame. As today one claims allegiance to the United States with all the ardor, adoration, loyalty, and fervor of this being, in like manner are we to claim ourselves as spirit, truth, and intelligence, and our body to be perfect, whole, and all harmonious. Forms are multiple, and are claimed by those who call themselves persons or individuals. The body is one, and belongs to all who will take possession of it as the body of perfection, the body of life, truth, and love. When you glimpse the real and true state of being, body, and universe, do not think that then you can afford to stand still and rest. No, this is no time for lethargy or mental laziness. You are to be the living flame, expressing more and more the divine ideas and activities inherent in your being, remembering that the body expresses you, the perfect life and being. An intellectual acceptance of this new idea without the spiritually joyous activity of abiding herein, worshiping, loving, adoring, and continually soaring to greater heights of light, power, and action, will do but little for you, and maybe even less. The growing tendency to do away with the idea of mental or metaphysical treatment, yet give nothing in its place, limits and jeopardizes one's light and spiritual progress activity. Having come face to face with the self, we still have to prove all things and hold fast. What will be of help to us in our disassociation with discord or limitation? The answer is our acceptance and of the dependence upon the spiritual consciousness which we are, the consciousness which knows the self, universe, and body to be the spiritual perfect whole. In fact, our whole outlook must be spiritual. If heaven is at hand, then just where is it? Is it in the United States, Europe, Jesus elucidated this viewpoint by saying, "The kingdom of God is within you." Now how far away is you? Right at hand, are you not? So if you appear to be sojourning in the United States, and right where you are, lo, here is heaven. Or in Europe, lo, here is heaven. You can see heaven is in you. You need not go to it. Consciousness is life, is being, is body, is universe, is heaven. It is right at hand within you. You. The more we can stand upon the true nature and state of ourself, body, and universe, the more secure becomes our safety, peace, and prosperity. The recognition of our activities as spiritual and perfect and without limit of any kind, at hand, and within our consciousness aids in our emancipation from a special world called human existence. I am that I am. Make an altogether new place in your heart for the great answer. I am the truth, all-knowing. I am the way, all-sufficing. I am the life, immutable and immortal. I am the body, incorruptible and eternal. I am that I am, there is none else. Attempting to put a certain amount of air into an enclosure restricts its natural power and greatness. Exactly so with life and being. Any attempt we make to personalize or individualize infinite being, body or universe, is vanity. Verily, every man at his best state is altogether vanity. Psalm 39:5. Reader, are you ready now to move from a far country to the Father's house, from division to wholeness, from individuality to the infinite, from man to consciousness, laborer to householder, and servant to Lord of creation? Learn right now that never can you transpose a finite form into a spiritual body, nor convert a material world into the promised land. On the other hand, know that you have never been isolated from true being. Inasmuch as heaven is our forever reality, and is in no way outside of us, for there is no outside at all, it is ever with us and at hand. This gives all the opportunity to live in it at any time and exactly where we are. If heaven were a place, there would never be sufficient room in it for all, for as it is our own being, we are at liberty to partake of all its fullness without any limits of time, place, or space. Heaven is the spiritual state of recognition in which we discern that since we are spirit, mind, we enfold every good and perfect thing, that the good alone is all. Thus the gracious invitation extended everyone, "Come ye blessed, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world." Since this kingdom of perfection is already prepared and self-existent, heirship to it rests with us, and is our acceptance of it. For instance, you should determine whether you express a personal form which is physical and in need of healing, or the universal body of truth, which is spiritual, perfect, and complete. Whether your world is an external earth, endangered by invasion, war, crime, and death, and in need of rehabilitation and defense, or the inner realm of spirit, perfectly safe, sound, and secure. To elucidate further, first of all, recognize the supreme and paramount fact. Yourself, body, and universe already exist for you, perfect and complete. Your acceptance of this sublime and unimpeachable realism should immediately interrupt your contemplation of mythical finite forms and conditions, and enable you wholeheartedly accept the wonders and glories of all-inclusive being as the I am that I am. So long as your eyes are blinded to this perfect, complete self, body, and universe which exist for you, from everlasting to everlasting, and continue looking as though they were not, so long shall you deprive yourself of the unlimited health, peace, harmony, and good which forever abide with you. Nearly all religious teachings of today demand that individualistically we become more spiritually minded, and more active in the expression of purity, goodness, and love. Surely this ideal is progressive and far more enlightening than the old belief that people are the helpless victims of heredity, ignorance, circumstance, or sin. Nevertheless, such striving to be divine shall be transcended by recognition of the eternal fact that goodness, love, purity, and uprightness are ever innate and intact in us, the truth and the life. Human footsteps appear helpful in the assumed man position, but the hour strikes when the individualistic sense must be dispensed with altogether, to make room for the sublime and unconditioned absolute, which all are but have not known. When I regarded myself as an individualized consciousness, I spoke, thought, and acted from this position. But when I received the revelation that I am the truth, that I and my Father are one, then I refused the individualistic viewpoint. As the Christ, or the I Am life, Jesus claimed all power in heaven and on earth, and classified himself with the Lord, the householder, the shepherd, the Father, the I Am, never with man, laborer, or servant. Because we are one with him, not individualistically, but as the same being, we are bound to come into this identical viewpoint and position. Then we shall prove that righteousness does not depend upon the transformation of ourselves as individuals, but is ever innate and intact in us, the one being. No method, repentance, system, nor science will ever accomplish that which is impossible with man, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. 2 Timothy 3:7. Our acceptance of the truth as our own being will prove the single way to wholeness, harmony, and life eternal. Verily, as the One, we are eternal good, birthless, ageless, unimpeachable happiness, wholeness, harmony, including every good and perfect thing. Already and forever the kingdom and king are one I Am. Before Abraham was, I Am. In the twinkling of an eye you may behold this fact to be so. No amount of labor, strife, or study can bring you to this priceless boon, your contemplation and perfection as the I Am that I Am. Our creation. Jesus' declaration that the kingdom of God is within us and heaven at hand pertains to us as the one indivisible consciousness or creative mind, not as multiple individualities. This heavenly kingdom has nothing to do with worlds, time, place, circumstance, persons, or things. It has to do only with us as to the mind to which all things are possible and in which all creation begins. The simplicity, charm, and beauty of Jesus' teaching become more apparent to us with every opening of our vision, and happily we are to be the living proof and certainty of it. You may now be thinking, how can I follow him so as to pay my debts, bring about my success and prosperity, and live without a constant sense of limitation? The answer begins this way. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. First of all, see that your consciousness is your kingdom, and the creator of your unlimited abundance. Adapting the Christ viewpoint, you will see that here in consciousness all good is and abides. No longer look then to some outside power for it, rather be that consciousness and power which is, and which creates all. Are not all generalities of debt involved altogether in the notion of personality and individuality? Most certainly they are. Surely none is found in the great universal consciousness which decrees, God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. Just as soon as you leave the mistaken position of man and that of an individualized consciousness, and acclaim the self as Lord of creation, even as Jesus portrayed for our benefit, then shall you cancel your debts and liabilities, for as the self-revealing light, you will receive direct perception and full spiritual instruction. Accepting reality, you accept God, life, and consciousness as the whole, incapable of any individualization whatever, therefore incapable of any limitation, debt, or liabilities of any kind. Moreover, here you see that you are one with God, the Creator. How important then to understand that only as we relinquish individualism can we be one with the divine. This new light exposes the absurdity of the theory that, as individuals, we are each a creator. There would then be many creators contending with one another. There is but one Creator, even as there is but one mind and consciousness. Hence the prerogative to create is ours only as the one indivisible whole. Proportionally as we accept our lordship, as Jesus exemplified, shall we be able to practice being as he did, and happily be the living proof that all things that the Father hath are mine. The Lord Self. I will lift mine eyes to the hills, from whence cometh my help. Psalm 121:1. Today, as always, we are to look up and ascend high above the individualistic, prodigal position. Eliminating this false viewpoint in practice, we see only infinite mind and its infinite perfection, infinite power, authority, and dominion. The changing of forms of government, the revolutionizing of a world of politics, religion, laws, and idealism, even though appearing helpful at a measure, will never be sufficient to bring about the millennial kingdom, the world of unlimited peace, harmony, and abundance. Lifting our eyes from warfare with man, thought, and thing, to that perfection which is ever fully established and at hand, and exercising our innate lordship, we are self-sustained and self-existent. According to the Scriptures, the mystical universe of love, peace, and blessedness is not to be gained through development, nor is it to be added to man's world as new clothes is placed onto an old garment. We are to let go of the old theories entirely and place the new ideas into mind where they belong. Then both are preserved. Let us now turn our attention to some of the miracles of Jesus as recounted by Matthew. We find that early in his ministry, he rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. Matthew 8:26. Yet even the winds and the sea obeyed him, because he knew and accepted himself as the very truth, the Lord of creation, possessing all power in heaven and on earth. Proportionally, as we come to see that we are the same truth and life, for there is but the one, then we also shall utilize this power and authority of being. Such power must not be confounded, of course, with the right thinking of so-called individuals, but abides in us as the Lord's self. Later we find Jesus feeding a multitude of 4,000 men beside women and children, Matthew 15:38. Think of it, with only 7 loaves and a few little fishes to completely satisfy a famished multitude. Consciousness, of course, is the substance of all things, and Jesus relied upon this, his own consciousness, to produce for him and for them whatever was needed at the moment. As the Christ, he declared and proved, "All things that the Father hath are mine at all times and in all places." When we are able to do this and to exercise our power and dominion as he did, then shall we know for a certainty that nothing shall be by any means harm you, and no evil shall come near thee. If you have not already proved this for yourself, then begin today to turn to the Lord's self to supply you with every good thing. Our way-shower also created money when he needed it. He did not obtain it externally, but from his own being as the Lord of creation. As this being, we are all privileged to do the same. The universal divine consciousness is able to bring into expression whatever is needed, that we may have security, peace, and unlimited prosperity, but we are to lay hold of this realism with our whole heart, and lovingly and trustingly depend upon its operation in all our affairs. In the name of our Lord's self, let us set to work to prove the actuality of the heavenly state. The Judgment Day. In the 25th chapter of Matthew, we find an account of the Last Judgment. Many have believed this day to apply to some far in the future period where God, as a great personal judge or potentate, will sentence everyone either to eternal happiness or everlasting doom. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divides his sheep from the goats. Verily the judgment day is right at hand. Jesus applied the term goats to the stubborn and self-willed who refuse to let go and give up their false sense of personality and personal attachment in order to accept of their perfection, wholeness, harmony, and goodness as already finished and at hand. No amount of reason, prayer, system study, thought, or science will be able to save the goat climbers unless they make the great surrender of an individual consciousness of their own. All efforts to change, correct, educate, or spiritualize them will never transform them into the sheep who have dispensed with all physical, mental, and spiritual efforts to do, to think, or to make over, content just to be the one. Accepting their pristine purity, innocence, and goodness as the one indivisible selfhood at hand, they have renounced all others in order to have and to hold it. They who refuse to be that which everlasting they are merely sentence themselves to utter darkness, where they experience limitations of all sorts until they are ready and willing to give up the personal for the one, the fraction for the whole, and a self-constituted independence for indivisible perfection. From this requisite of life none are exempt. The book of life, the judge, the judgment day are not far off, but very close to us all. Nor can the Christ save those whose ears are dull of hearing and their eyes they have closed to the voice of progress and revelation, for it is written, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathered her chickens under her wings, and ye would not. Matthew 23:37. The parable of the separation of the goats and the sheep is not mere idle words, so let the reader pause to consider just what it means to him, remembering that the sheep enter the door. I am the one and the all, and the goats climb up some other way. Ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, but he that shall endure to the end, the same shall be saved. Matthew 24:6-13. Lovingly, patiently, fervently, Jesus reiterated that there is but the one door into the sheepfold. but they persisted only the harder to cling to their personalities and to the many religions, systems, and methods of their day as byways to it. Now we more clearly see and better understand the reason Jesus alluded to himself as our shepherd, and why so often he called the Lamb of God. Always he guides the sheep, the willing and ready ones, within reach of his voice. Lovingly, tenderly, woefully, he bids them enter the door into the sheepfold, no longer delay. Confidently, stirringly, compellingly comes the voice of the beloved shepherd down through the ages. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. John 10th chapter. Then follows the great and glorious promise, and I give to them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. There can be no mistaking the imperial character and absoluteness of such words as these. He that climbeth up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber. Thus should one reach for that which he already is, and accept personalities and personal attachments as other ways whereby to attain or acquire heaven. He must ultimately sacrifice them in order to grasp the profound wealth of meaning in these simple words. I am the door. I am the door means I am heaven. For to understand heaven as your very being opens the gate of paradise to you. If you are not abiding in the awareness of your perfect self, your perfect body, and your perfect universe as the one eternal infinite, then you fail to discern and comprehend this vital fact as the great fundamental of the Christ, the rock upon which to stand, nor deviate therefrom. Recognition of the self-existent heaven is the I am door to the sheepfold. For God is heaven, and heaven is God. God is perfection, and perfection is God. Listen again and more closely to these majestically glorious words. I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and other sheep I have, which are not of this fold. And they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. Let all of us who are ready and willing now worship here in the sheepfold, where one mind, one body, and one universe constitute our infinitude of being. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. 2 Corinthians 3:17. All that is required is spiritual revelation or illumination, which comes through spiritual readiness, and a fasting from intellectualism, personalities, and incorrect teaching. Our living identities. Since the infinite universe of mind is one complete whole, then plants, animals, and all living things are included herein. They are not separate creatures or individualized entities, but exist as our own ideas in living expression, and as mind we have dominion over them and should exercise it. As the one and only consciousness, we know that our thought, desires, and actions are perfect, all harmonious and complete. Our ideas of beauty, wisdom, strength, devotion, companionship, and faithfulness are such identities as we now term plants, animals, flowers, and so forth. Governed by us, it is our prerogative as their creator to see and to know them as ever perfect, harmonious, and incorruptible, even as we. In fact, we are to exercise authority over everything which comprises our universe. Identified with our true self and being, we shall not need to attain to any divine qualities, for we shall find them to inhere in us and be natural to us. Identified with love, we shall be loving, generous, kind, and considerate, and we shall see nothing to forgive or to be forgiven. There are no separate beings, animals, or living creatures of any kind. All life is one. At every point of being, life is free, flawless, and absolute. But this can be known and experienced only from the standpoint of self-illumination. Divine revelation. Never can truth be known except through divine revelation. It requires a receptive, honest heart, willing and ready to leave all for the Christ way. Self-revelation is indeed the truth which sets us free, even as promised. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth, the direct divine illumination, shall make you free. Spiritual illumination or revelation is the fulfillment of all our desires and questionings. It comes to those whose hearts are open to fuller light and knowledge of the real, the perfect, and the true. It comes as immediate understanding and freedom. Such revelation is our identification with our perfect state of being, present and attacked in here and now. Revelation alone shall deliver us from the dream of materiality and its attending forms of bondage, ignorance, and limitation. Here in his own being, as the truth and life, one shall find that fullness and fulfillment for which he has searched everywhere. Spiritual existence is the only one that we should believe in and accept, and spiritual body the only body or form. Never can the perfect spiritual existence be experienced by attempting to place the divine mind over or into a personal mentality or everlasting life into a mortal human form. Receiving the truth of being through divine revelation, one learns that never has he been separated from the divine perfection, and that in his true state he, his body, and his experience are one. Permanent deliverance from impurities and imperfection shall follow as one lets go identification with any kind of mind, body, or existence of his own, personally, and accepts the one perfect consciousness and being, always pure and immutable, to include all there is of him, and he to be this, and nothing else. If we would experience revelation or entrance into reality, then we must part with all that keeps us from it. The greater our love for and devotion to the perfect as already established, both in being and in manifestation, the more frequent such times in eternity. One can have as many changes in personal consciousness as he will, but none of them will bring him direct divine illumination, since truth is to be known through truth, and not through change of any kind. To look away from oneself as a man, a mind, or a body, to one's perfection in, of, and as life itself, is to get out of the mortal and mental into reality and truth. So long as one remains in the belief that he is a personal consciousness, and so must deal with life and things mentally, he has not seen himself as he is in reality, where God is all there is. Nowhere else shall we ever find peace, rest, and happiness, but in our confession, I can of my own self do nothing, and in our recognition of acknowledgement, both the King and the kingdom are within me. I and my God are one. When we depart from physical and mental ways of healing bodies and minds, and behold ourselves as we are in the realm of the real, our need is blotted out, and the healing takes place, not because of any change, but because we have seen perfection to be the all and the only. Just as you are, you can come into the experience of your perfection, if you will release yourself from any personal salvation through thing or thought, to face heaven as a living reality within you now. Perfection, heaven, is not within you as a personal being. It is in God alone. God, meaning yourself as you are in the light of reality and truth. The whole creation is finished, complete, perfect, and in manifestation now in the sight of God. A perfect body forever belongs to you, free from age, disease, imperfection, and death. The atonement. Atonement is oneness and allness. Herein we are redeemed from the dream of a material existence by functioning in the state of awareness as the one, whole, and all. Atonement is the bringing of everyone and everything into the clear perception of purity, perfection, and reality. Together with our infinite perfect creation, we are to live in the world of spirit, nor ever be completely satisfied and at peace until we do so. As exemplified by Jesus, the atonement presents the self as Savior and Redeemer, liberating itself and its world by enforcing its true spiritual awareness and the power thereof, bringing all thoughts, ideas, and things into the reality of oneness as allness, and allness as oneness. As the word is spoken, not to heal nor to regenerate someone, but in confirmation and glorification of the self as all power in heaven and on earth, so atonement is not to banish or wipe out evil, as though it were something, but it is the justification of the self in its right to be a law to itself, verily the almighty power. In our night dreams, our characters are wholly fictitious, totally void of life, truth, or reality. Not so within the so-called dream of a material existence, wherein the characters appear as multiple personality or human beings. These are not void of reality, for reverting to the true state of the self, we know all to be the self and no other. Talk to yourself as the self. Tell yourself, I am almighty power. I am sovereign authority. I am sublime mind. In my infinity there is no illusion of any kind, no darkness, no dream. I am that I am. I am that perfection to which nothing can be added nor anything taken away. I see not many, but everything to be the one myself. I praise and glorify myself as infinite in being, encompassing infinite light and its infinite expression. I am aware of life at every point to be the self and no other. Life at every point to be perfection, harmony, peace. I love my infinite self as the whole. I redeem my world by seeing everything in it bright as the shining light, pure as the spotless Christ. Upon this rock I stand, nor shall I do otherwise. Upon this rock, or understanding, I establish the infinitude of being. inclusive of all its identity everywhere, the one infinite whole everywhere the same. Whereas before there appeared multiple personalities and their discordant conditions, now before me is the one spiritual selfhood and its perfect spiritual identities. Mind in its true state is the infinite, indivisible whole. Atonement, therefore, is mind embracing all as the one infinite selfhood, mind seeing, thinking, feeling as the infinite perfect whole. Atonement is our relinquishment of an all-assumptive thinking, our return to the Father's house, the self remaining perfect mind forever. O thou great, eternal, ever-loving, never-changing love, thou art the infinite I, the one who is the whole, the one in whom there is no personality nor individualism whatsoever. Atonement is the direct perception of this infallible, undefiled, imperishable, and ever-existing love which thinketh no evil, feareth no evil, seeth no evil of any kind. To this love, which is all-embracing, all-encompassing, boundless, and immeasurable, all is peace, all is harmony, all is purity and perfection always. Verily, I live this love, I think in this love, I feel in this love, and all sense of individualism vanishes, submerged in this infinite sea of love, of heaven, of reality. Preach the gospel. Inasmuch as Christ commanded that we preach the gospel, exactly what did he expect us to preach? Naturally to carry on his message. Concisely as follows: I am the light, ye are the light. I am not of this world, you are not of this world. I and the Father are one, we are all one in the Father. The works that I do ye shall do, where I am you may be also. Did Jesus establish any form of church whatever? No. When questioned directly regarding his idea of worship, he replied, The hour cometh, wherein ye shall neither in this mountain, nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. The true worshipper shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. John 4:21-23. Church organizations, therefore, are not in accordance with the Christ message, but contrary to it. In fact, forms of any and every kind denote limitation, restriction, bondage. From such as these Jesus came to save us. Suppose we consider such forms today, their doctrine and destiny. Do any of them proclaim the message of the Christ, which was and is, I am the way, the truth, and the life? Do any of them teach that being is one and not many, that we are God and not man? No. Based as they are upon a form of worship not inclusive of the whole Christ truth, they uphold individual leadership and authorities, and diversified attention is given to multitudinous personal modes and methods. They who believe themselves to be human beings or individuals erect churches, attend and support them. But those of us who are willing to renounce such position find that we are that which we are seeking, namely God. Instead of the general present-day doctrine of individual regeneration, Christ taught that we are not individuals at all, but are one indivisible whole. Any attempt, therefore, to become that which we are already is futile. Churches, then, are not to be preserved nor perpetuated, since their foundation is based on a false premise. Furthermore, Jesus' prophetic words are now about to be fulfilled. Verily I say to you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Matthew 24:2. The upheaval apparent in the churches today signal their time is short because of their failure to recognize and expound the great truth of the gospel, that we are not human beings to be saved or perfected, nor individual identities to be reformed or spiritualized. Their doom is inevitable. Since the infinite perfect mind is not divisible, then it is not separated into different persons or individuals called men, women, and children who must perfect themselves in a material world. Outside or beyond the belief and fear, for instance, there is no fear, nor any suggestion of it. Such belief arises only because we do not take full possession of the mind which we are and function therefrom. Inasmuch as there is no possibility of fear in mind, then by virtue of the fact that we are mind, we have no fear, nor could have. Furthermore, without a belief in sin, disease, and death, they could have no chimerical appearance. The single way to put a stop to them is for one to cease enacting the false believer. Until then, he will be unable to apprehend that there is no human mind, sleeper nor dreamer. So long as anyone personifies a sleeper or false believer, he is liable to limitation and restriction, and moreover, unable to fully discern the great truth of being. nor can he release himself from such bondage and ignorance until he unifies himself with the divine mind, which of necessity knows, I am God and there is none else. Isaiah 45:22. Since our substance is spirit, not matter, it is impossible for anyone to be free permanently from imperfection and limitations until this paramount principle in fact be revealed to him. Inspiration and illumination take place when one is willing to leave the imperfect for the perfect, the intellect for the heart, and the way and means of the personal for identification with that reality which is our all-inclusive and perfect selfhood. How simple and easy to see that spirit, soul, cannot be sick or in pain, afflicted or disabled. Ever it is immune, changeless, and absolute. Identifying ourselves with soul instead of personal sense, we shall find the labor with thought to be over. For as light makes darkness impossible, in the same way the spiritual light that we are spirit shall prove our sufficiency indeed. Here in the glorious light of spirit no effort, no struggle or mental work, nor even church attendance is required. One becomes the way to himself. I, spiritual revelation, am the way. A perfection without work or effort, a revelation that you and I are one, and that there is none else. Identifying ourselves with spirit, soul, the reality of oneself, and neighbor alike, we shall be so happily concerned with truth and light that there will be no room for darkness in us. Nor is soul one thing and body another. When spirituality revealed, soul and body shall be found to be one entity, one being, always in a state of self-perfection. Heal the sick. Inasmuch as the gospel is now preached from the premise that we are humanity and not spirit, imperfection and not perfection, the many and not the one, how then can it ever be expected to rid the world of sin, sickness, and death? As man, we are inevitably subject to vacillation, illusion, and errors of every kind. Therefore, as man, we can never free ourselves from them. Not until we wake into our real entity and function in our true nature shall human experience cease. The true viewpoint corrects the false, which being corrected disappears. Think of the vast amount of time, labor, and effort now given toward the destruction of sickness, sin, lack, and limitation everywhere, instead of giving all attention to the self, in which they do not exist. As man, you will never have escaped from evil, but tracing your origin back to God, the I Am, will obliterate the man position entirely. The attempt to bring about improvements or healings in individual minds or bodies has proved a great benefit to mankind everywhere. Nevertheless, the real need is to ascend to the spiritual state where no healing is required. Definitely the human viewpoint must be changed for the divine, then the cause of all discord will be removed. No war could ever exist of itself, no sickness, sin, or death appear, but for the untruth that we are man instead of God. Lo, to be spirit, to be mind, to be life eternal, is the only perfect and universal remedy. The statement, I am God, and beside me there is none else, has, as it were, two sides to it, both conveying the exact same meaning as, one, I am God, and two, there is none else. In seeing that God, the self or I am, is all perfection, all harmony, and all completeness, necessarily this view includes the vision and knowledge that there is none else. Likewise, in viewing any apparent discord or limitation, we come to understand their nothingness on the basis that the self, the I Am life, and intelligence is all there is. Comprehending the fullness of this statement, we, the self, must then prove all things. Many would like to have explained to them why war, sickness, and limitation of all kind appear in the world, and still it be true that God fills all space. This is absolutely impossible of comprehension or elucidation without the superlative knowledge that God, the I Am that I Am, is one whole including infinite identity. Generic man, so styled alone, is responsible for every war, sickness, sin, poverty, and limitation appearing today. He alone brings them into a chimerical existence, names the forms they present, sustains and supports them. Not until he wakens, as from death to life, even as did the prodigal, will he ever understand their total inexistence and be free. How is he the cause of war and sickness? He thinks he is a man, a person or individual, and not the way, the truth, and the life, the self ever perfect and immaculate. Because of this improper idea of himself and all else, he becomes, as it were, another being called man, whose intelligence is limited and incomplete, whose life is mutable and insecure, whose body is material and mortal. whose world is finite and impermanent, functioning in a perverse and fabulous position. His thoughts are imperfect and illogical, inefficient and incorrect, confused and deranged. Thus they result in mythical forms of war and of discord of every sort, kind, and nature. The formations of his thoughts truly represent his assumptive departure from the real state. For instance, many of the things which he invents, instead of proving an eternal blessing to him, often in the end turn upon and destroy him. None of his inventions ever reach perfection, but always lack it, hence the continual discard of all his own handiwork for that which will completely satisfy. Never shall he produce it in a world of his own making. Never shall he achieve permanent success, invulnerable security, nor impeachable health and wholeness, whilst to himself he remains a limited human being or a separate individual identity. Disowning his real entity as the almighty creative mind, with its unlimited power to create everything perfect and good, he becomes, to his false belief, a weak, sinful mortal, ever seeking that perfection which is his true selfhood, always at hand and within him, yet ever finding uncertainties, wars, tribulation, and death. Not until he rises to accept his true state, the free and unlimited whole, shall he ever experience that which he seeks, namely heaven, for heaven and the self are one. The great verity eternally remains. Infinite ego and infinite identity are one indivisible whole, perfect, absolute, complete. Never have I been man, neither material nor a spiritual one. Never am I subject to limitation of any kind. Now and always I and myself are one and identical. Waken, be born again. Arise, come forth. What else is there to do? What else is there to be said? No other directions would be of any real value to one in a far country. Cast out devils. The command cast out devils may now be put into practice, for now we can execute it with spiritual vision and divine authority. The devils are the generic false beliefs which have continued since the beginning of time, of which individualism is foremost. Christ taught that all reality is one, without part or differences, hence the irreconcilableness of all self with the human mind or individuality. Conversely, generic man sets forth the doctrine of apotheosis, the deification of a human mind. To disclaim any allegiance to personalities and human doctrines brings one face to face with a flaming illumination and conviction that there is no other but the universal self. This one demands our full attention. Indeed, we need to clear our vision until nothing is left before it but the perfect self and its perfect expression. On the other hand, or from the viewpoint of seeing there is nothing else, it is now easy to understand that the discordant form called disease, poverty, or inharmony of any kind have no God in them. Hence they have no life in them, no action nor power. But what originates their appearance? It can be traced directly to erring thinking and feeling, for this is in form. This thinking, however, is altogether fabulous, since founded upon the mistaken assumption that there is a mind or consciousness other than the one which is God, and that such evil thoughts have power. The great realism remains intact. The only mind or consciousness we have is that which is God. Hence there can be and is no discordant form, no erring thinking, no other mind, life, or being. By virtue of the fact that God is all, and there are no other personal thinkers, then all results attributed to them are mythical and spectral, void of existence. Consider the prevalent plague of Japanese beetles. Let us see in such particular instances what must be cast out. Do they express or represent life? Are they one with that life which is God the whole? No, to be sure, they fly about, have pretty colors, and apparently the same life as us, but just what do they represent? They imagine the thoughts, actions, and feelings of nations and peoples at war with one another. Herein is fulfilled the prophecy of Jesus when he said, "For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in divers places." To claim that God life in any way includes a form of life which is a past is to misinterpret existence. Moreover, instead of giving such insects the same life that we have, we are to cast out the form of life which they seem to have, and disclaim any reality to it. Taking away their semblance of life, by understanding that they image in ignorance, disobedience, darkness, and deception, which have no life or reality in them, they fade into nothingness. Practicing this viewpoint, the author has recently seen such a demonstration take place, The beetles which were attacking trees in the garden were found thereupon lifeless. A slight touch of the branches, and they fell from the leaves under the ground, dust to dust. Jeremiah proclaimed, "Every founder is confounded by the graven image, for his molten image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them." Ezekiel had a similar vision when he wrote, "Cast away from you all your transgressions, whereby ye have transgressed, and make you a new heart and a new spirit. For why will ye die, O house of Israel? They made the images of their abominations, and of their detestable things therein." A plague or pestilence portrays avarice, destruction, warfare, strife, hate, greed, all based upon the root error that mind can be multiple, that life can be separated into human beings who can be at war with one another. Imprisoned in a personal mind or human intellect, one toils with sweat and tears. He walks in darkness, sleeps in darkness, and brings forth in darkness. This is the far country in which, in belief, he moves farther and farther from his real mind and true state of being until finally the understanding comes to him that a personal mind or individual mentality is not to be transformed or trained in any way, but it is to be totally renounced. The Bible urges that we turn our hearts to the light, for the heart denotes the pure and spiritual longing, aspiration, and affection. Jesus sought the simple and pure in heart, whereunto to plant his teaching. He knew how hardly shall they who are rich in intellectuality enter into the kingdom of spirit. Established as the one, we assert our prerogative to be a law to ourselves, that nothing can be with us that is not wholesome, perfect, and pure. Rejoice not that the spirits are subject to you, but rather rejoice because your names are written in heaven. Luke 10:7. Thus spake Jesus to those whom he sent forth to preach and to heal. Rejoice not over demonstration, but rejoice because you have found yourself and everyone to be the truth and the life. How we should rejoice and be glad. Jesus' treatment was administered as the spoken word, the word of power, the word of command. The self speaks to the self with power and authority, saying, "Come forth." Joyously the self hears the self and responds. From out of the depth of love divine, the word comes forth and is fulfilled. It does not consider personalities nor mental inhibitions, nor seek to change any so-called consciousness. The word springs from the self and is the self, and is the authority thereof. The self is without limitation of any kind, without discrepancy or discrimination. It is power almighty. It sees itself as the unconditioned, the free and irresistible always. Know thyself, love thyself. Who is there in all heaven and earth but thyself? Say not I am, except in the name of the one, the self who was and is and ever shall be, in whom there is no dream nor opposition of any kind. I am love, I am understanding, I am peace, I am abundance at every point alike. I am the demonstration of eternal good always. Nothing can be added to me nor taken from me. I and my creation are one, and fill immensity. And the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Lord, and his name one. The Lord is the infinite ego. His name is one, and his identity one. His harmony is one, his activity one. If God be for us, who can be against us? No one, no thing, there is none to oppose, none to be contrary, none to be separated. The divine consciousness reigns, and is all there is. Knowing this ever-existent fact of being, the Christ confidently commanded, "Go ye into all the world, and preach the gospel to every creature." Mark 16:15. Dear friends, let us obey our Redeemer. Let us preach the gospel of oneness and allness to everyone who will listen to it. Let us teach the message of ontology, indivisible, perfection, completeness, I amness. Let us admonish all to stop thinking from the premise of man, seeking for his good. Instead, take the rightful state of the self, alive forevermore. Once accepting our true state, we are bound to come into increasingly fuller light and revelation until they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads. And there shall be no night there, and they need no candle, neither light of the sun. For the Lord God giveth them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. Revelations 22:4-5. Raise the dead. Since I am the perfect self, then I must speak as the perfect self. I must see as the perfect self. I must hear as the perfect self, and no other. Speaking as the perfect self, the one ego, what shall I say? I shall say, I am perfect, I am complete, I am whole, I am creative, I am prosperous, I am successful, I am happy, fearless, glad, I am the truth, understanding, realization. I am life, I am light, I am love. Seen is the infinite ego, the one mind immaculate. What do I see? I see my identity as wholeness, harmony, immortality, beauty, loveliness, charm. I see joyous activity, spontaneous delights, limitless fullness everywhere. Hearing is the perfect one, the infinite ego. What is it that I hear? I hear the voice of myself saying, I am all. I am free, I am triumphant, I am supreme. Accepting infinite ego and its infinite identity as the one universal whole, we rise from death into the experience of life, immortal and eternal. For who are the dead? Those gone from our sight and hearing? No. The dead are they who stay in darkness, assuming identities of separate thinking individuals. When Jesus said, I am the truth, all power is given to me in heaven and on earth, he was speaking as the one ego, not as an individual thinker or human being. He refuted the spectrality called sin, disease, or death. With the might of the self as the truth and the light, he was the disproof thereof. At one time, while he was elucidating the subject of mental darkness, he said, But while man slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. Matthew 13:25. So-called individual thinkers are liable to any distressing dreams or experiences as long as they continue with such assumption. The discerner Paul, following up his viewpoint of the Christ, proclaimed, Awake thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light. Ephesians 5:14. Inevitably, ontology must now come. It presents the great reality, infinite self or ego, one and indivisible, I and the self one. How it enriches us, how it exalts us, how it glorifies us. Truly, we are filled to satiety. As one considers the pure spiritual to be distinct from both the physical and mental, he begins to experience a peace unknown to him before. Moreover, he will soon be aware that troublesome thoughts, worries, and fears are things of the past. In conscious possession of divine light and revelation, he can walk in freedom, health, and happiness. Revelation is the voice of our being, effortless as the shining sun, resplendent as imperishable glory. Then shall the light break forth as the morning, and thine health shall spring forth speedily. Isaiah 58:8. It is in spiritual awakening that one shouts, Whereas I was blind, now I see. I was uncertain, but now I know. Lame, sick, sad, but now I can walk and am whole and glad. Accepting oneself to be spirit instead of a personal consciousness, it is natural to come swiftly into the clear and vivid awareness that life is not a problem to be solved, but a great and glorious reality be experienced. Afterward, they have mouths, but they speak not. Eyes have they, but they see not. They have ears, but they hear not. Noses have they, but they smell not. They have hands, but they handle not. Feet have they, but they walk not. Neither speak they through their throat. Psalm 115:5-7. They have mouths, but they speak not. Eyes have they, but they see not. They have ears, but they hear not. Neither is there any breath in their mouth. They that make them are like unto them. So is every one that trusteth in them. Psalm 135:16-18. Cease ye from man, whose breath is in his nostrils, for wherein is he to be accounted of? Isaiah 2:22. Surely men of low degree are vanity, and men of high degree are a lie. To be laid in the balance, they are altogether lighter than vanity. Psalm 62:9. A distinct and unmistakable new view of life and being has now come into focus. Boldly and authoritatively it calls attention to the exact teaching of Christ and insists upon the contemplation thereof. Take specifically the new perception. I am not a student, but the truth. If this were adopted as merely another declaration to add to the store of one's personal knowledge, he would gain nothing from it, but rather deprive himself of the very light and inspiration which such new ideas bring. When this new light first appeared to me, I beheld it as a startling and astonishing revelation, not merely a new thought, but an altogether different platform. My heart leapt to let it completely saturate me with its significant meaning and absorb my whole attention. Having sought all my life after the truth, here I was, at last, face to face with the astounding fact that now I had found it to be myself. To be sure, I had many times caught glimpses of this supreme reality, but only as though to add another lovely idea to my present practical knowledge, or to claim it as a higher statement of reality. Now all others, everything as it were, was swallowed up in this all-absorbing revelation. I am the truth. What a new foundation it was to me, a new platform, a new premise altogether. Reader, does this revolutionary realism mean as much to you? It will, if only you will heed the wisdom of Jesus, put new wine into new bottles. And if you do not heed it, what then? You will simply be postponing your opportunity to take your heaven-given security, peace, and safety. In the light of this new revelation of ontology, let us see what the bottles in the parable represent. Surely something which is perishable, finite, and material, they therefore refer to the limited, the personal, and the divided, that which begins and ends. What then could they mean by such forms which denote personality and individuality's limitation, materiality, mortality, the idiosyncrasies of those in a far country, the masquerade of many minds, many false beliefs, many separate lives and beings? Here intelligence appears bottled up in human brains, sight in eyes, hearing in ears, and all functions of life conditioned, localized, circumstanced. Such forms are supposed to contain life and substance, but they are hollow, like a phantom or shell. They but represent the false concepts of individualism, separateness, the many, in contradiction to the one. They are dust to dust, for there is no life, intelligence, nor substance in them. This explains the appearance called death. The so-called individual supposedly escapes from one bottle or form to function in another. Learn the difference here and now between multiple material forms and the one infinite spiritual body. Rise and accept the new idea and perception that since life is one indivisible whole, the body of life is the identical substance. You then shall know another kind of bottle altogether, the imperishable identity which belongs to you as the life and the truth. You are infinite life itself, thus you possess the body of infinite life, and no limited material form belongs to you at all. The body of life is immortal, immutable, imperishable, and eternal, indivisible as Spirit God. It can never be pluralized nor separated into human or material form. This spiritual body comprises infinite, multifarious identities, which are imperishable, omnipresent, perfect, and tangible to mind or consciousness. They represent the character of spirit, mind, all that is true and perfect, such as beauty, loveliness, harmony, wholeness, and all similar qualities. You are this very life, mind, and being. You are this identical consciousness. When you see this as the forever truth, and the Spirit bears witness with you, then you will be willing to let go entirely the mistaken belief that you are an individual living in a human existence. To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light of life in them. Isaiah 8:20. Listen closely. Can an idea think? An idea really is the think or thought, isn't it? It is in this sense that we supposed ourselves to be the thoughts of God. Still, all the while we knew that we were thinking, feeling, acting, being. In fact, we were instructed to be thinkers. Now, how could there be a thinking idea? Do your ideas think? When you see an image in the mirror, does it reflect your life at all? Does it reflect sight, hearing, thinking? Isn't it colossal folly to imagine such a thing? We know for a certainty that we think, hear, see, and act, and that no way do we resemble that image in the mirror. Contrast this form of religious teaching with that of Christ Jesus, who wielded almighty and omnipotent power, and who claimed it as his very own, who never intimated in any way that he was depending upon some outside original for it. The wonder and glory, the infinite charm and altogether loveliness of the Spirit of truth, how it satisfies, how it glorifies, how it exalts us to know at last that we are the thinker of divine ideas, that we are the infinite mind with its unlimited almighty power, and not the lifeless form of it in a mirror. All such theories are old bottles now to be discarded. Resurrection denotes a progressive change in forms, an advancing awareness which continually expresses itself in outlines of greater beauty, activity, vitality, and power. If all the beauty, glory, and grandeur now seen from a limited personal perception is entrancing, how much greater shall be the wonder and glories when seen from the luminous, infinite understanding. Ascension is the taking possession of the self as infinite Spirit God, which cannot be localized nor embraced by any form whatsoever, but ever expresses the body of infinite life, truth, and love. Rejoicing, we now renounce and disown all claim to be perishable bottles or forms which so for long have restrained us, and gloriously and inspirationally take possession of the body of perfection, into which no discord of any kind can ever come. How safe and secure we feel! Now all fear departs. We are at home. We are in our Father's house, where we enjoy our very own. Let us now turn our attention to some of the miracles of Jesus as recounted by Matthew. We find that early in his ministry he rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. Matthew 8:26. Yes, even the winds and the sea obeyed him, because he knew and accepted himself as the very truth, the Lord of creation, possessing all power in heaven and on earth. Proportionally, as we come to see that we are the same truth and life, for there is but the one, then we also shall utilize this power and authority of being. Such power must not be confounded, of course, with the right thinking of so-called individuals, but abides in us as the Lord's self. Later we find Jesus feeding the multitude of 4,000 men beside women and children, Matthew 15:38. Think of it, with only 7 loaves and a few little fishes to completely satisfy a famished multitude. Conscious, of course, is the substance of all things, and Jesus relied upon this, his own consciousness, to produce for him and for them whatever was needed at the moment. As the Christ, he declared and proved, all things that the Father hath are mine, at all times and in all places. When we are able to do this and to exercise our power and dominion as he did, then shall we know for a certainty that nothing shall by any means harm you, and no evil shall come nigh thee. If you have not already proved this for yourself, then begin today to turn to the Lord's self to supply you with every good thing. Our way-shower also created money when he needed it. He did not obtain it externally, but from his own being as the Lord of creation. As this being, we are all privileged to do the same. The universal divine consciousness is able to bring into expression whatever is needed, that we may have security, peace, and unlimited prosperity. But we are to lay hold of this realism with our own whole heart, and lovingly and trustingly depend upon its operation in all our affairs. When Jesus tabernacled with men, he did not teach bondage but freedom. He did not teach limitation but abundance. He produced bread without seedling and harvest, without grinding and baking. He produced fish without bait or hook, without water or net. He produced money without mine or mint, without labor or press. He produced raiment without hands or machinery. Ever we can hear being saying, the place wherein thou standest is holy ground. Then why should we wait longer, and for what? Have we not been under the law or schoolmaster long enough, and it is not high time that we might be justified by faith? And further, who did hinder you that ye shall not obey the truth? In the name of our Lord self I am, let us work to prove the actuality of the heavenly state. End of book. This audio presentation of I Am the Answer by Lilian DeWaters has been brought to you by audioenlightenment.com. Copyright 2014. All rights reserved.